It's time.
Tweet is out.
Hello, everyone. Hopefully you can hear us and see us. I don't actually know if you can, but maybe you can.
My tweet is
Hello. Someone says hello, so I guess we are live. I don't know what happened there. It just didn't tell me we went live. It just happened. Oh well. Hello, everybody. There's a
Man, I
massive
have
fly
resting
flying
typing
around. So
face.
if you can see, yeah, if you can see it, that's I know it's here. Don't worry. I can't get it out. I've been trying.
You should name it.
Oh shit! It's gonna name itself at this rate. It's massive.
That's what. No, I won't even say that.
Don't. Not worth it, Dan. Oh, I need to. Oh, God, right. I need to do my mic
Razer
test.
Synapse updated.
Nice.
Fingers
Testing, 1, 2,
crossed.
3.
It'll stop crashing. Okay.
Testing, 1, 2, 3. That's fine. I'm ready to go.
Oh, I gotta update the. This is 3:15.
Hope you guys are ready for a packed podcast.
Somehow it'll still go 90 minutes because I'm gonna rant and say something.
I've noticed that when we have like only a couple stories, we spend longer on the topics. Like we just go into rants and just we try to pad it. So we'll see how it goes.
All right, I am now recording.
I am now recording.
3, 2, 1. Welcome to the Windows Central Podcast, episode 315 for June 9th, 2023. Hey everyone, Dean and Rubino here, joined with Zach Bowden for another exciting episode of the Windows Central Podcast. We don't have a ton of topics this week, but we're going to go deep in some of these topics because it's going to be kind of fun. First up, we'll go into the latest Windows 11 news and new features that are coming, some of which are actually pretty cool and exciting. Zach will walk us through that. Well, also, Apple had its big event this week, WWDC, its developer conference, and finally, they showed the world their AR, VR Play, the Vision Pro. Lots to talk about there, especially in relation to Microsoft and HoloLens. And I have a lot of thoughts and opinions about this new device. And I'm sure, I know Zach does as well. So we'll kind of go through that and discuss whether or not Apple has a winner here and if the Apple magic will pay off this time, or are they really kind of going down the wrong route with face computing, as this genre is going to be called eventually. Zach is also going to announce he's ditching his Pixel Fold pre-order.
Yes.
As many of you have known, the Pixel Fold is on the verge of coming out. And while it does look like a really nice device, there's no argument there. And I kind of really do want one. The price is hitting us both. Maybe it's the recession or macroeconomic headwinds is hitting us. But yeah, that said, I still think it's an exciting phone. I'm just not willing to part money with it for this version. And we'll go through some reviews, including, it's not live yet, but it'll go live hopefully later today, the Asus ROG Ally. That is the Windows 11 PC gaming handheld. That's also kind of a Steam competitor, yet it's not, because it's a more advanced version with better specs. And we'll kind of go through that review and tell you the pros and cons. Actually, I can tell you the con right away with it, which is, I think, going to be the issue with most of these devices until Intel and Qualcomm step up with some new processors. And then if we have time, we'll do Thing of the Week. I'm not even sure if I have one. Outside, I'm sitting down again, which means my cat just plopped onto my lap. So I'm pretty happy with that. Anyway, Zach, how you doing on this fine Friday?
I'm not too bad. You were right about the weather, by the way. You said to me last week that you're going to have hot weather this week because you had it last week. And yes, this week has been scorching. Tomorrow it's like 30 degrees Celsius. and I'm having a barbecue, so I'm looking forward to that.
Barbecues are fun, no doubt
Yeah.
about that. But yeah, and as I was informing Zach, don't worry, his weather forecast for next week is gonna be cool. Hopefully he doesn't get all the Canadian smoke that we apparently imported this week. Luckily I wasn't in New York, which turned into what looks like a post-apocalyptic city with all this smoke that
Yeah.
blew down. We did have it here though in Massachusetts on I think it was like Wednesday and Tuesday. It was pretty weird out. Like the sun looked like it was this red fireball and everything just looked hazy. And I was just like, what's
Yeah.
going on with this? But yeah, sign of the times, I guess. I love on, of course, Twitter, and don't worry, I won't start my rant on Twitter right now. But people were using this as an opportunity to debunk, quote unquote, the climate crisis, basically accusing Canada of purposely setting tons of fire. I
Yeah.
don't know why. Like, what's the goal there? But people are really adamant about the fact that they think that the climate isn't shifting. My argument, by the way, against all that is like, all right, let's say the climate stuff is nonsense. Let's just take your word for it. Here's a reason why we should go to electric and shift to other technologies. Pollution. I don't like smelling car exhaust. I don't like gasoline. Saudi Arabia literally threatened us apparently last fall with economic damage by like restricting oil for us. Like I feel like these are all alternative good reasons to be switching to cleaner energy, whether or not you believe in the climate stuff. I don't know. If you don't believe me, then do me a favor. Go start your carburetor, your engine, your ice car, and then put your mouth on the exhaust, inhale it for
Okay.
a few minutes,
Okay.
and then come back to me and tell me what you thought of the experience. Because I guarantee you, well, you probably won't come back and talk to me, which might as well be a good solution as well, too, to be honest. But with that cynical note, I'm happy. I guess. Well, should we start with your Pixel Fold news?
Yeah.
Because you were pretty excited about getting this device, and I too, I kind of do really want this device, but I couldn't do the trade-ins. They wouldn't even take the S23
Yeah.
Ultra, and it
I
was
think,
just
yeah. I would say I think our
cost.
problems with it are a little bit different. I'm not too averse to the price. I know these things are expensive. Sure, I would like it to be cheaper, but that wasn't the main reason I'm canceling my Fold. The reason I'm canceling it is more shallow, if you will. I don't really know. It's the software. I'm apparently not a huge fan of Google's version of Android, which is shocking considering
That
Google
is shocking.
makes Android, and it's usually quite lightweight. But I've been using this Pixel 4 here, which is running the latest, well, almost the latest version of Android. Well, it's Android 13. It's just an older security patch at this point. But the UI stuff.
That's interesting that still got updated to Android 13.
But yeah, it's running the same UI and stuff, all the same stuff that the Pixel Fold is going to have when it launches later this month. And the reason I switched to it because I had it around and I was like, I liked the Pixel 3 XL. The Pixel 3 XL I daily drove, and I loved that phone. That phone was amazing. I love the UI. I love that version of Android. But Android's changed quite a bit since then. I think that was an Android 10, maybe an Android 11 device. I don't remember. Maybe even Android 9. The Android 13 on the Google Pixels these days is a lot more custom than it used to be. It's a lot more Googleified. It's Material U, which is Google's very, in my opinion, terrible design language. Although I made this tweet on Twitter, and to be fair, a lot of people are on my side. They also agree it's kind of ugly, but there's also a lot of people who think it's the best looking version of Android, which, I guess if that's how you feel, then that's how you feel. But I personally really don't like it. I hate how simplified it is, not in features, although it is quite simple in features as well, but in just how it looks. Everything's opaque colors, pastel colors. The shapes of things is super round. There's no blur effects. There's just nothing. There's not many animations to it. I don't know. I just really, I'm not jiving with it. So I've been using this Pixel 4 XL as my daily phone just to sort of get used to it, and I can't. I'm just not enjoying it. I don't like how it looks at all. And so, I was looking at my Pixel Fold pre-order, and I'm like, I'm about to spend £1,800, whatever it is, on this phone that I know I'm not, the software side of things I'm not going to like. The hardware, I know I would love. It's the Pixel, it's the Duo 3 of my dreams, the hardware at the very least. But the software side of things, I'm not going to enjoy. So can I really submit myself to spending that much on a phone that I only 50% enjoy? And I don't think I can. So I've cancelled the Pixel Fold pre-order. It's not back ordered. I could, if I change my mind, I could go out and pre-order it
Sure.
again. But I'm not going
Yeah.
to. I don't think. I just don't like Google's version of Android. I really don't, and that may surprise some people, but honestly, I think I prefer Samsung's version of Android over Google's at this point.
Crazy. So you and I disagree on this because
Yeah,
I don't not like Samsung's UI language and changes, but I actually do like Google's design and their. Um, I think it looks great. I love the feature set. Honestly, one of my favorite things about the Pixel is and talk about shallow. I just love how it IDs songs automatically, just shows it on the lock screen. I'll be sitting in the restaurant with my SO, be some like terrible music will be on. I'm just curious, like, what is this awful music? I just look over at my phone. It's already got the little ID on the always on display. I just think it's really clever. Not only does it do that, it logs it. There's like a separate applet that keeps a log of all your songs that have been ID'd, and you can heart them if you like them. And just clicking them, you can open them up in Spotify. And I love that because it just, I don't know, there's always music I'm hearing that, I'm just kind of curious about. I also like the transcription features that they have for recording, sound recordings. It's really good for interviews. Of course, the camera is really good. Uh, I don't know. I like the simplicity of the OS, but I don't feel like it's simplicity in the sense that I'm surrendering functionality. I
right.
feel like I can do as much on my Pixel as the Samsung. Now, Samsung definitely does have a lot more stuff jammed in.
Yeah,
And some of it I actually don't care for. It's almost, especially because there's a lot of redundancy, right? Samsung has so much of its own software, which is good software. I'm not even knocking it, but it becomes a little kind of crazy. I do really like Samsung's keyboard. I do prefer their keyboard over everybody else's, to be honest. Partly because I use Grammarly,
I
and
agree.
specifically Grammarly Pro, and that has a direct integration with the Samsung keyboard, which is fascinating. Like you can log into your account and then Grammarly will start working in all text fields. And I find that really helpful because Grammarly's own keyboard is not that great. So that's the way you would have to kind of do it on the Pixel. I'm not, I've looked into it a while ago, but I haven't checked today. If anyone has information, if you can sideload the Samsung keyboard onto a Pixel,
I don't think you
send it my
can.
way. Yeah, I mean, because it's got all the services and it's kind
Yeah.
of
It's
it's
actually
kind of
powered by
interesting.
SwiftKey. I don't know if people know that, but the Samsung keyboard uses Microsoft SwiftKey technology to power the predictive nature
Weird.
and stuff. It's just the
Or
front
maybe it's
layer.
just their layout.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
layout's really nice. I agree with you fully. I prefer the Samsung keyboard over any Android keyboard, to be honest. I prefer it more than Google's
Yeah.
keyboard for sure. It's really nice. It's an underrated gem of a keyboard. I feel like a lot of people just like dismiss it because old Samsung's keyboard was terrible back when it was like TouchWiz. But the modern One UI keyboard is, I think, amazing. It looks nice as well, especially in dark mode.
Yeah, and it has a lot of cool interactions. Like you can also, I do like Bitmoji to use once in a while. Um, and you can like you link your Bitmoji up into it. I like stuff like that, right? You don't have to use it if you don't want to, but I like the idea of like a keyboard that has plugins basically
Yeah,
to other services. Uh, I know SwiftKey has the Bing Chat stuff, and you and I have discussed that. I think it's cool they did that, but it's still a little bit clunky to get into, and I just don't find it necessarily. I don't know. I haven't been in a situation where I've been on my phone where I've needed to use Bing Chat to rewrite
yeah.
or format something for me. I guess it's a cool option to have, and maybe some people at Microsoft made the effort, but so far I haven't really used it too much. So,
Yeah. So a few people
but
asking in the chat, what phone am I going to get? Because I'm not going back to the Duo 2. I'm done with the Duo 2. If Microsoft's done with the Duo 2, then I am also done with the Duo 2.
yeah,
I've been looking at other foldables. I'm just not happy with any that are available in my market, which is the UK. The
yeah,
only options are the Galaxy Fold 4, which I absolutely cannot stand the shape of it, so I'm not getting that. the Honor Magic VS, which the hardware is nice, but again, the software, I've looked at all the reviews, the software is apparently awful. It doesn't even have an app drawer. It's like an iPhone where you just have homepage of of apps and apps, which I'm not subscribing to that. And then there's the Pixel Fold, which we just discussed. Not a fan of the software on that either. So my only option is to not buy a foldable. I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna wait for. I'm gonna wait a year, I think, and we'll see where we are in a year. I'm hoping companies like Oppo and Xiaomi start selling their foldables outside of China, because I would buy the Xiaomi Mix Fold 2 in a heartbeat if it was sold here officially. But because it's not, I'm not gonna go to the effort of importing it. So for now, I've literally just ordered a Galaxy S23 Ultra, and I'm just gonna use that for a year. It's a great phone, but partly because I was able to get it for like 50% off from Samsung with a trade-in and a discount on top of that through, we have like a thing where we get like money off certain websites at work. And so I was able to get a bunch of money off it through there as well. And so 50% off of a S23 Ultra brand new, I think is a good deal. And it's better than spending £1,800, let me tell you.
Listen, the S23 Ultra, I've said it before and I'll keep saying it. I think it's the best version. I mean, you would hope it would be the best version of a Samsung phone. But I mean, in the sense that, like, it feels like it's perfected now. I love it's got like kind of a flat screen to it. The design, the hardware design is great. They integrated the stylus again back into the chassis instead of an external pen solution. Although you can still get the external pen, I believe. But it just really feels like the most perfect. It feels like the slab Android phone perfected. The only thing is, and Kareem says in comments there, if I could get the Pixel features on the Samsung phone, we might have the perfect device. Yeah, I agree. Specifically, at least for the main camera, I would love it if it had Google software, because the Pixel 7 main camera is still unparalleled. Like, I mean, yeah, the Samsung S23 Ultra's cameras are good, especially with the telephoto. But in terms of the main camera, the Pixel 7 is still just overall better, which is really impressive. So I find myself using the Pixel. That's one reason I kind of went back to the Pixel 7, was just because the camera is it's a better camera.
Yeah, and the other thing, the reason I'm going for the Samsung as well is because that integration with Microsoft. It still is the case that Phone Link works best with the Samsung, and that annoys me to no end.
But for what? For the features?
No, I know
like
it's not for features
apps?
that even I'm going to use, but it's just knowing what if in like 4 months they add a feature that is actually pretty cool that is Samsung exclusive. We don't know what they're going to do. So that's one of the other reasons why I went for Samsung. But again,
I get the point.
I was torn between the Samsung and OnePlus, which again we've talked about OnePlus before. They were great at one point, then they sort of fell off a bit. But the OnePlus 11 apparently is very good, and I almost got that, but I decided against it at the last second.
For the Samsung, are you going to use Microsoft Launcher?
I don't know yet. I'm gonna try both. I prefer the animations of the stock launcher mostly on most phones, not just Samsung. But obviously the feature set of Microsoft Launcher and that integration with Microsoft is really nice to have as well. So yeah, I'll be toying with both, and I'll see which one I settle for. But not too sure yet.
My experience, I agree. The Samsung's launcher and browser, for that fact, are actually really, really good.
Yeah.
I go back to Microsoft Launcher mostly because of familiarity, and I frankly just like the way it works. That said, Microsoft Launcher basically works fine on a Samsung phone. The one limitation I found, it's not a deal breaker, but it's a little bit annoying, is when you go back to the home screen, the swipe up feature to get to the cards doesn't work for whatever reason.
That sounds like it's broken, which is strange. Which actually wouldn't surprise me, considering
I've noticed this all the time with Samsung phones.
Yeah.
But on the Pixel, it works totally fine. Microsoft Launcher feels just like it would on a Microsoft device, basically.
Yeah. Well, there you are. Well, I'll give it a go and I'll see if I can replicate it. I probably can. Well, Microsoft Launcher hasn't been updated in months anyway, so it's probably just been broken for so long and no one's noticed.
Yeah, fair enough. What, you're not going to get an iPhone, Zach?
No, God, no, are you kidding me? Why would I buy an iPhone? They're terrible. They're boring. That's what the problem I have with iPhones is they're just very samey. We'll be talking about WWDC in a bit, but the iOS 17 stuff did not impress me. I don't think there was a single feature they announced for iOS 17 that I was like, oh, well, okay, that's a killer feature that I need to get an iPhone for.
It's diminishing returns. I've said this over and over again. Yeah. Like, you're on version 17 of an operating system. there's only so much stuff you can
That's true.
create and put into the operating system that's going to be useful. Once in a while,
Yeah,
they'll come up with something like really cool. A lot of times, Apple, their really cool thing is something that's just been done on phones for like 5 years already, and
it's
they're
an
finally
Android
doing
feature.
it.
Yeah.
So we've got widgets.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like awesome. Widgets are great. I guess. So, um, yeah, whatever. All right, let's move on to Windows 11. So there were a couple builds that came out this week. Why don't you walk through us
Yes.
what the new features are and why we should be excited?
Yes. So build 23445. Sorry, 23475 rolled out to the Insider Dev channel this week. This is quite interesting. I've seen a lot of people just talking about the fact that Dev channel these days is getting a lot of new stuff, and the Canary channel, which is technically supposed to be above Dev and more experimental or less stable, whatever. It's actually pretty great. It's very stable, but it's getting no new features. It's basically been in feature freeze for over a month at this point, which is just hilarious to point out. But the reason for that is because the Canary channel is obviously testing something beyond Windows 11, and Microsoft hasn't. Well, the branch that Canary is testing is I'll put it in air quotes RTM branch. It's a stable branch that they would normally release to the public with, but since Sun Valley 3 was cancelled, we're not actually getting that release at all. So that branch is kind of frozen. The Canary channel will get interesting again in a few weeks when they move back to like the in development branches. But that's why Dev is getting stuff and Canary isn't. It's because Dev is still in like an actual development branch where stuff is being added. So, yeah, the build that went out to Dev this week, 23475, has a couple of additional things that we've talked about in the past, most of which was announced at build. The first one being dynamic lighting, the ability to control RGB peripherals in the Windows setting apps is finally in testing with this build. I'm interested to look at this because it doesn't specifically say it only works with certain hardware. They do have a list of hardware where they know it does work, but to my knowledge, it should just work with most RGB devices. It might not work with all of them, which is why Microsoft is giving you a list of keyboards it knows it works with, most of which are Razer keyboards and mice. But if you do have an RGB peripheral of some kind, you may get lucky. It may just work. So you can plug it in, give it a go, and see if it works as you would expect. But yeah, this just requires you going into the personalization tab in the Windows Settings app, clicking on dynamic lighting, and then from there you'll see all of your RGB enabled devices. And you can turn RGB on and off. You can customize what the lights are doing or the effects, etc., etc. So that's really nice to see. We've discussed before. This is great for those who just want to change the color of their lights and don't want to have to download a gigabyte of a third-party software to do it, like Razer's whatever software they've got, which is incredibly bloated and horrible, frankly. Sorry, Razer, but it's terrible. Fix it. Yeah, that's really nice to see. And then the other big thing in this build is the modern File Explorer stuff, as we've discussed. That new UI along the top, which is much more like a browser with your navigation buttons, modern address bar, and then a search bar. And then below that is your commands for like copy, paste, new folder, etc., etc. That is now rolling out in this build as well, in addition to an updated home page UI, which is built on WinUI. So slowly but surely, Microsoft is updating the File Explorer, the rest of File Explorer to match the rest of the Windows 11 UI stuff, more design aesthetics, more Mika effects, all of that fancy stuff. I think we're still waiting for the sidebar to be modernized, but almost everything else has been touched now. So the home view, that whole header UI and the command bar, the details pane has been modernized. The gallery feature, obviously, which is new, is already modernized. We're still waiting for, I think, folder view, although I think that might be in this build with the new home view. But the sidebar, and we're also technically still waiting for things like property dialogues to be updated. So when you right click on a file and select properties, you still get like flashbang, because if you're using dark mode, because it's not been updated in 100 years and it's still using like an old white interface of 1995. That still needs to be updated. Hopefully they get around to doing that. I would like to see that happen. But otherwise, that is basically all the notable stuff in the builds this week. I think there was also a change to a setting, which now makes it easier to configure when Windows switches to a cellular connection if your Wi-Fi signal is poor. But other than that, and there's also Unicode emoji 15 in this build. So if you're a fan of emojis, there's a comb emoji now and a peas in a pod emoji and some other stuff, which I'm just taking a look at.
Fabulous.
There we are.
Very cool, I guess. Yeah, Windows 11, it's I guess now we got to wait for the next big moment. Are we? Wait, I forgot. We're gonna have a moment for, or you don't know yet, right?
I think it's gonna just. I think Moment 4 is 23H2, so it'll be coming in September, October time, and that's the one that will have Windows AI Copilot. It will have. I wrote a. I even wrote a post this week with all the stuff, and I've forgotten. Give me 1 second. So yeah, Windows AI Copilot is going to be the big thing for 23H2. Obviously, the new File Explorer, a new Windows backup tool, which will back up things to the cloud, as we discussed last week.
Oh
Taskbar
yeah.
and grouping, 7-zip and VAR support, at least for extracting. I think compressing is coming in 2024. And then RGB stuff, dark mode in Paint, widgets board updates, and Windows Dev Drive and Dev Home. That's all coming in September, October, to our knowledge.
That's gonna be good. That should be a fun one, especially that'll come right in time for holiday season. I imagine
Yeah,
we'll get some new devices. There's a lot going on with like I said, we were talking about this earlier before the podcast, but going to 2024, it's gonna be a really exciting year for PC. We got
yeah,
new processors from Qualcomm, of course, new processors from Intel and AMD, but Intel is going to have a generational shift, right? They're going to be switching their architecture again a little bit to Meteor Lake, which is going to be focusing on efficiency, and we should see some pretty big numbers there. Uh, and then, of course, rumor has it, Windows 12,
yeah,
maybe even by, around that same time. Like, I mean, picture this. This is ideal, of course. We always talk about this, and there's like a 50-50 shot this all lines up, right? But next fall could potentially see Windows 12, new Qualcomm Orion processors, and a small fleet of new devices, right? I expect to see like, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 kind of premium. These will be premium devices, by the way. Premium devices coming
yeah.
out with co-launching. Um, oh, and there was something else I was going to say. Oh yeah, right. Yeah. And maybe if the stars align, Surface Duo 3 or whatever Microsoft
It
decides to
would be
do.
nice, wouldn't it? It would be
I mean,
nice.
that would be a very exciting fall.
That would be. Especially
A lot of questions that
I would say,
remain about
especially with
Sim.
the whole AI stuff, because we kind of already know Windows 12 is going to be really AI centric, even to the point that
Yeah.
that UI that's leaked. There's like a search bar along the top. What if it's not a search bar? What if they turn it into like a Copilot bar, which is just that thing is constantly there and you can just type into it at any time? That I wouldn't be. I wouldn't be surprised if they decide to sort of go that route where they design the OS around Copilot. Wouldn't surprise me in the slightest. Except the only problem with that is, and it's a great point to bring up, is cost. Copilot AI is not cheap to run on Microsoft's ends. The server costs are quite large, and right now I think it's sustainable because Bing Chat isn't super popular. Let's be honest. But if they integrate this into Windows and make it like a core part of Windows 12, that's putting it in front of a potential 1 billion users. And does Microsoft have the servers to be able to run Copilot for 1 billion users? I don't know. That's all stuff for Microsoft to have to figure out. But yeah, you're totally right. And also, if they do a Duo 3, surely that device will be AI centric as well. If Microsoft's whole thing is AI now, then surely every device, even the Android stuff, will be something that's built around AI. So yeah, that would be amazing if they're
And
able to.
maybe even it'll look Windows 12-ish.
Yeah, that's the other thing. That's kind of what they wanted to do. Their vision for it was it would be basically a mini Windows running Android. The UI would be kind of set the same, but it will be obviously running Android and be able to run Android apps. That would be amazing. I would be all for that. Absolutely.
It would be nice if like the launcher team and the Duo
My
team,
door
that's
just
all they're
went.
doing
If
right
you could keep
now.
talking for 1 second.
Okay. It'd be kind of nice if like the reason why we're not hearing from launcher team is because they're like just at work rebuilding this thing from the ground up, trying to align it more with Windows 12, um, and everything kind of comes together. But being the fact that we say this is Microsoft, I always feel like the caveat is it's a 50-50 shot that would actually happen. So maybe it won't. But there's a potential there, at least for 2024, to be a pretty big year. I should also mention by the end of this year, the PC market in general is expected to rebound, in which case, hopefully the market stabilizes more. We'll see a little bit more innovation and stuff coming out. Uh, Maybe more dual screen laptops, more foldable laptops, maybe even that rollable laptop that Lenovo demonstrated a few months ago at Mobile World Congress. So there's a 2024, I think, is going to be kind of just a really interesting year. And let's welcome Zach back to the podcast.
Hi, I'm back.
Did you let that? Did you have to let the fly out?
No, it was I had a parcel at the door which I had to get because otherwise I'd miss it.
Yeah, I know what that's like.
Yep.
Actually, I haven't had any deliveries this week. It's been kind of nice. So
Nice.
anyway, that does it for the Windows 11 news. We'll obviously have more as I think, the big thing is Copilot should be hitting some of the insider rings in the coming weeks. And that's
That's
going to be
right.
kind of cool to talk
Yep.
about. So, because we haven't really seen much of it in action slash what it can actually do. I know it can do some certain things in the operating system, but like what's its bounds, I suppose, is going to be the interesting question. And will it be useful or is it going to be kind of gimmicky?
Yeah.
You know, I think we're going to have it could go either way. It's going to be interesting to see how they're doing this. I believe we have an ad read.
We do. Indeed is back once again. Thank you, Indeed, for sponsoring. Well, it's a game where no one wins. Of course, it's the waiting game. When it comes to hiring, you don't wait for great talent to find you. You can find them first with Indeed. When you're hiring, you certainly do need Indeed. Indeed is the hiring platform where you can attract, interview, and hire all in one place. Instead of spending hours on multiple job sites searching for candidates with the right skills, Indeed is a hiring power. Wow. Indeed is a powerful hiring platform that can help you do it all. They streamline hiring with powerful tools that find you match candidates. And with Instant Match, over 80% of employers can get quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed matches their job description the moment they sponsor a job, according to Indeed data in the US. One of the things we like about Indeed is that candidates you invite to apply are 3 times more likely to apply to your job than candidates who only see it in search, according to Indeed's US data. And Indeed does the hard work for you. Indeed shows you candidates whose resumes on Indeed fit your description immediately after you post that job, so you can hire faster. Even better, Indeed's the only job site where you where you only pay for applications that meet your must-have requirements. Indeed is an unbelievably powerful hiring tool, delivering 4 times more hires than all other job sites combined, according to Talent Nest 2019. So join more than 3 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. Start hiring now with a $75 sponsored job credit to upgrade your job post at Indeed.com/WCP. That offer is good for a limited time only. Claim your $75 credit now at Indeed.com/WCP. Just go to Indeed.com/WCP and support the show by saying you heard about it on this podcast. Indeed.com/WCP. Terms and conditions do apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed. Thank you, Indeed, for sponsoring. And it's now time to talk about the future.
Fair enough. Let's talk about, yeah, the Apple Vision Pro. Well, I mean, so in general, Apple had, I would say, a really big week. Their
Yes,
event was very long. I still
that's right.
find their way of presenting things odd. I commented on Twitter how in a couple of years I could see them just having AI do this, and we wouldn't know the difference between what's his name.
Yeah,
Uh,
I was a bit disappointed that the event was a pre-recorded one. I kind of thought that because this was their like new iPhone moment with a new product, that they'd go back to doing like the on-stage thing where they're announcing a big thing. But they didn't. It was another whole pre-recorded, arguably quite boring. I'm bored of watching those now. I kind of want to go back to like the raw live on stage sort of thing that
their overly produced graphics. Yeah, and,
yeah,
and we were joking around in our own chat how people fly across the world to attend this thing to
and then they
sit
got to
in the
watch
theater
TV.
to watch a video that we're all watching on our home computers. Granted, I would say they get to see the product, but then even then they really didn't, right? They get to just photograph it like
I
in
think
this.
some got hands-on time, but they weren't allowed to film themselves with it, which
Right.
was
Yeah.
kind of annoying.
Some exclusive, the top cream of the
Yeah, yeah,
crop
yeah.
press got to try the actual device, but they couldn't do photos or video with it. But I mean, it was pretty, they announced the MacBook Air 15. I think that was a good move. In the PC market, right? 16 inches is the new 15. So having a larger display, but still coming in at that 1299 starting price while getting an M2
Yeah,
processor, I think is a
it's great.
really, yeah, it's a significant move for them. I think they'll do really well. It's a very thin laptop, obviously, so it's all that magic in there. There's, of course, iOS 17, which I really don't want to talk about because, yeah, it's just okay, whatever. New features, Apple Watch, it's fine. It's getting widgets. I guess. Again, they're just jamming more stuff into this thing that is just like it's increasingly becoming almost the primary screen for your phone,
Yeah.
because apparently we can't all be bothered to look at our phones anymore. I still have an Apple Watch. I wear it every single day at the gym for 90 minutes, and that's it.
Right.
And the reason I wear it, I do like it as a timer, so I can count between my sets. But if I'm being real honest, it's really just a really nice Spotify control for my phone. So I can switch tracks, repeat that track again, and control the volume. That's primarily why I use it for. The health stuff is like it does integrate with my Aura Ring, so when I do like a weight workout, it'll go back into Aura Ring. I don't like the Aura Ring is great, but lifting weights, I'd want to damage the ring,
Right.
so I don't wear it for that. But yeah, the Apple Watch, I feel like it's getting kind of like again, you can only do so much with it, right? And the one thing they haven't really done much is improving like the ability to detect sleep automatically. Like I think you still need to like I am going to sleep
Yeah,
now.
that's
Like
crazy. That's insane.
yeah. Like who bothers to do that? My Aura Ring, I love it. I'll go take a nap and it's just like you took a nap for 45
Yes,
minutes,
same with
right? I'm
Fitbit.
like, yeah, I did.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um yeah, it's pretty dumb stuff. But so yeah, Apple Watch is getting a new version and you can get betas for all this kind of stuff. There was the AirPods is getting adaptive audio, which they really made a big deal of. And I think adaptive audio is cool, but I'm not going to really like anyone can do this. And I guarantee you Bose is already working on this and probably will have something out. This is like active noise cancellation, right? For a while it was only Bose kind of had it, then everyone else started doing it. And it's sort of like when you mention headphones have ANC now, it's like, okay, yeah, you almost expect that. Then the question is like, who does the better ANC? And it's actually Bose still, by the way. Sorry, Apple fans. Uh, but adaptive audio, which basically will filter, it's supposed to be smart enough to filter out so I guess if someone comes up to you and you're wearing the headphones, your AirPods, and there's a lot of background noise, and that's being filtered out, someone comes up and talks to you, you'll hear their voice.
The demo they did for that was so I don't know if you watched it. It was really unnatural. The way the guy's walking and just like he's walking
Yeah.
straight, but he's looking at this person like side on. It just was really weird. The demo.
Everything was so scripted and
Oh, it was
choreographed. It was a
horrible.
little
It was
like,
horrible. Yeah.
but I mean, like I said, cool feature, but I don't use AirPods because they're AirPods. I'll go to my grave saying they look completely stupid, and they still do. Just because everyone else wears them doesn't mean y'all don't look stupid with them. But because it's become more accepted, like bell bottoms, we can get away with it, I guess. But my Bose headphones look way better and have better ANC, so I'm fine with that. But like I said, I wouldn't be envious of this. This is just machine learning. It's nothing that
Yeah.
uh, proprietary that other companies can't mimic, and they will. Boy, did they make a big deal out of what was the audio? Spatial audio. Dude, if I
Spatial
took a
audio.
drink for every time a shot for every time they said spatial audio, I would have been on the floor wasted. They were like spatial audio, spatial audio. All spatial audio is, yeah, it's Dolby, it's Dolby Atmos basically, which you can get on almost any premium Windows PC these days. A lot of phones also have it. It's nice, it's great. I love it, but it's like it's not that like crazy of an idea. So that was like most of the big
They
announcements, I
had
think.
they had macOS Sonoma, which was interesting for a couple of
Yeah.
reasons. There's a couple of things in macOS that I thought was actually
Oh
really
yeah.
nice. So they've added live wallpapers to macOS, and I've tried it. I have this old MacBook here, which I don't use. It's like an old MacBook Air. I think you gave this to me, Dan, and it's still
Yes.
supported. So I run all the betas on it, and the live wallpaper thing is really nice. So when you're on the lock screen, like the wallpaper's moving. And then when you log in, it sort of gently slows down and then stops to become your static wallpaper on the desktop. I think that's it's a really nice touch. And that's like Apple's really good at that. Then they also added widgets. Well, they've had widgets, but now the widgets are interactive. So they've completed the vision that Microsoft had about 100 years ago. But also you can now bring them and pin them to the desktop, which I think is hilarious because that's the Vista thing all over again. But it's also what Microsoft is working on for Windows 11's widgets. That will probably be coming next year, I imagine. But then in addition to that, the Sonoma thing is quite curious because the wallpaper for macOS Sonoma It's quite reminiscent of the Windows XP Bliss wallpaper, that green hill with the blue sky. And that's because Sonoma is where that photo was taken, the wine fields of Sonoma. That's where Bliss was taken, and macOS Sonoma, being named after that sort of valley of hills, is where the Windows XP photo was taken. And maybe there's a slight nod to it, I assume, because the wallpaper is very similar. You've got that sort of green wave and then the blue wave above it. I think it's a little bit of a nod to Windows XP, and I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, interesting. I haven't tried the beta yet, although I do have also a MacBook on the floor here. I guess I could try, but I
See,
haven't
mine
been
was
to
on the
even
floor as well. I
that.
don't know if you noticed as I leant over to the ground to pick it up.
Yeah, I don't even know if I can muster up the energy to
I
do
will
the
tell
whole
you this:
beta.
updates on macOS terrible. They are so much worse than Windows,
Yeah.
and I don't feel like macOS gets enough flack for it. People complain about Windows updates, which are relatively seamless these days, and they're not super long. macOS updates, my goodness, they are a process. And resetting a Mac, forget about it. It's not even possible without downloading the old media, burning a USB. Actually, no, you can do it through recovery. But still, it's not as simple as just, in Windows, you've got the reset option. Click reset, press OK a few times. You factory reset a PC. Not the case on macOS. You've got to format a disk drive, at the very least, to get it going.
Yeah.
Crazy. Insane.
Yeah, formatting a disk drive is always do you really want to do this? Do you want to nuke that partition? Are you sure?
Yeah,
Don't you
right.
need
It's
that
like, I
partition?
think
Like, I
so.
don't know. Do I need that partition? What is that partition? What does that do? Why do I have
Yeah.
to know Linux all of a sudden? What's going on here? But let's get to the meat of all this,
Yes.
which is Apple Vision Pro. So this is the $3,500 headset that's due out early next year. It's been rumored for many, many years. Rumor has it they spent $1 billion investing into it, and they have applied for 5,000 patents during its design phase. And, let's just all be honest here, in terms of hardware and software, it's phenomenal, right? It's a great looking
Yes.
device. Well, I wouldn't say it's great looking, but it's cool. Um, I think it delivers on what they say. I'm not even going to question them on everything. And I know some people are like, yeah, well, let's see what it actually ships with and all that. I don't doubt it. I think Apple's going to ship this. It'll be as good as they say. And even if there are bugs, which people will make fun of on Twitter and all that kind of stuff, they'll be fixed right away. And it'll be a nonsense story within a couple weeks, right? I think, you know, they did a really good job of what they sought out to do. And what did they do? They basically made a better version of what we already have, which is either the HoloLens with its kind of abilities, as well as some VR, integration too. The price came in at $500 higher than the rumor, which is not insignificant. I think everybody was expecting Apple. I saw Casey Neistat apparently was like hoping it would come in at $2,000. I think that's what everybody was hoping. This is Apple. They're going to come in and blow everybody away. It's going to undercut the price. And I was surprised when it came in $500 higher than what the rumor was, because $3,500 is the cost of HoloLens 2. Now, personally speaking, I don't make my critique of this thing is not really the price, believe it or not. For one, I think for all the money that they put into the research and development of this thing and what you're getting, it's probably worth $3,500. That's just the reality of it, because everything on that thing is custom made. This is the same issue with HoloLens, by the way. Processor on HoloLens was a custom thing with Qualcomm, and it has a bunch of sub-processors, which were some made by Microsoft themselves. The lenses in HoloLens are custom. Like everything on these devices are custom made. They're not
Yeah.
off the shelf
It's
parts.
it's not just custom made. It's also the best of the best. Like the displays they've chosen to
Yeah.
use, they're like 4K panels. I think the highest you can get before that were like 2K, maybe 2.5K.
Yeah.
Like the fact that they've gone for that, plus it's an M2 paired with some other thing that they've designed. Like it's completely the materials they use. Most headsets you'll find are plastic because it's lightweight, and who cares? It's plastic. It's on your head.
Yeah.
Apple have gone for metal and glass.
Metal and
because
glass.
it's like okay.
Yeah, they did the Surface version. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like sure. That's thanks, Apple. They've gone for another display on the front for the eyes. We'll get to the eyes, but like they've gone
Yeah.
overkill like on it, and that's why they're charging such a premium for it. I think it's because they know no one's going to buy this Gen 1 product, so they can kind of make it the luxurious like sports car version, and then they're going to come into the market a few years later with a cheaper one, surely, right?
Yeah, I mean, Vision Pro implies that there's a non-pro version.
Vision
So,
Air.
that's one way. Yeah. So, it has fewer features. It's not as great and all that. I do question about how fast they can bring that price down, though, because
Right.
it's not like HoloLens has dropped significantly in price because it's still, so long as you're manufacturing them in small numbers and it's all custom made parts and it's hard to make stuff, that price is good. It's not going
Well,
to drop as quickly as I think as laptops and other things.
no, I agree, but I will say that I think the reason why HoloLens doesn't drop is because it's an enterprise product, and enterprises aren't are usually waiting for a discount. It's like we need this thing now, we'll just
Yeah.
go and buy it now. Whereas Apple's product is inherently a consumer device. They've announced it as a consumer product. It will ship next year for anybody to buy. HoloLens 2, you can't just buy one. I don't think you have to like go through a process to actually order one. Whereas you'll be able to order one on
Yeah.
Apple.com, a Vision Pro, or even be able to walk into an app store and buy one. That's the difference, I think. But also, I really don't think this vision couldn't work for Apple if they were to do like a Meta Quest Pro, which is, I think it launched at $1,500. That,
Yeah.
I don't see why they couldn't put a Vision OS on a device like that and ship that as an Air product. I really, we've already seen it happen. Like Meta's doing it. They've got that premium device, but it is only 1.5K. So I can't see why Apple wouldn't be able to drop the price of this. They just have to obviously pare it back big time. But that's what the Pro version is for, right? That's why the Mac Pro exists. That's a $7,000 tower PC, whereas you have the Mac Studio, which covers 99% of creatives for 2,000, 3,000. Well, I can't remember how much it is. I assume this is what's going to happen with the Vision Pro and whatever that comes next.
Yeah, and now let's talk about a little bit about how it functions. So it has a bunch, 12 cameras on it, a bunch of
Yeah.
sensors. You don't actually see through it. It uses the external cameras to then recreate video that you stare at
Yeah.
through the device, which I know is an issue for Zach. Um, and they made a big deal about it's you're not supposed to get nauseous in it, although Joanna Stern from Wall Street Journal says she did get a little queasy with it. She's like, I wasn't going to like barf or nothing, but she did feel a little switching between AR and VR because it has a dial on top and you can
Yeah.
change the world. Can bring in VR and AR, mix it, all that, which is cool. But at the end of the day, you are staring at a video screen
Yes.
an inch from your eyes. And you're not seeing the real world, you're seeing the world through video, just high quality video. Um, it's an interesting solution. Obviously, they solved the problem of switching between kind of like AR and VR in theory. Although the way even Microsoft envisioned solving this problem was HoloLens, the glass would darken for VR and then it would lighten for AR. And that technology exists. It's just not easy to do. It uses an electric current, so you can get it
Mm.
in like really expensive buildings and airplanes can do this, where you hit a button and the current goes through and it makes the window dark. That was envisioned to be the way Microsoft wanted to do it, but obviously either the tech's not here or it's just too expensive. Um, and then yeah, allows. I'm not sure they know, like Microsoft, how people are going to use this thing. Let's go back when HoloLens was first announced. The demos were Minecraft, this thing on Mars that was in conjunction with NASA. There was also a Skype demo where um, you could be on a call with someone with Skype, and then they could see what you're seeing and walk you through and draw on your world. So they can like walk you through fixing something. For me, it was fixing a light socket. Was it a light socket or a light switch or something like that? It was something electrical, and I think that a plumbing one too. And it was kind of true. They didn't really know what the HoloLens was going to be used for and what was going to be, and that's why there was such a delay. And eventually, what they figured out was one, there's really not a big consumer play for this thing. And you and I have said numerous times on this podcast, as we both have HoloLens One, it's the coolest tech you'll ever see. You put it on and you're immediately blown away, like, oh my God, I can't believe this thing exists. This is insane. And then you're like, now what? Like,
Yeah.
what am I going to do with this? Yeah, I could watch a movie on it. The movies and TV app works. All the UWP inbox apps for Windows work on it. So you can watch a movie, make it full screen, stick it. You can even pin that to your wall,
Yeah.
and it will always be there. The next time you put HoloLens on,
Yep.
it remembers where everything is. So you can have like a virtual room where stuff is just pinned on the walls and it'll just still be there. And it's really kind of cool. You can do a Skype call. You can watch, listen to music. Like you could type. Like you can do all sorts of stuff. But we never used it for that. Because like if I want to watch a video, I'm going to just watch on my TV or something. And it wasn't really necessarily the quality is an issue. This is the point I keep driving people with this category, trying to drive this, yeah, drive the point with this category, which is the complaints about VR and to a lesser extent AR is not the price because you can get an Oculus for $400, Oculus 2, now Oculus 3 is coming out, it's gonna be $500. Yeah, you can get the whole pro version for 1500. So there's like a bunch of different price ranges out there. So prices really isn't an issue though. And we had Windows Mixed Reality, which was also $399, and you got the controllers with it as well. So it wasn't the price. It really wasn't even the quality. Now, could the quality always be better? Of course, and that's what Apple did. But like if you talk to people who have bought these systems, whether it's Oculus 2 or you and I with Windows Mixed Reality, the quality was never a problem. It looked cool, like it was fine. And when Microsoft had their Windows Mixed Reality thing in 2017 and 2018, and we put it on, like it was like this is really neat. You can do a lot of stuff with this. We weren't complaining that the resolution was poor.
Right.
It was just like we talk to people, especially even if they play Beat Saber and all that, everybody's blown away about by this tech when they put it on and they use it and they get into it for a while. And you're like, this is really neat. And then you take it off and you put it down. And then what happens is, for some reason, the return rate of people going back and putting this headset on is really low. And that's for me. I know Zach has that issue. Jez had that issue. Like, and that's the problem with all this tech. And it's not quality. People aren't using it because they say the quality is not good. They're like, no, the game is awesome. Like I had a lot of time. The others don't know why they don't use it outside the fact you got to put a mask on.
Yeah.
And that maybe has a cable, maybe it doesn't,
For me, I had that problem with that big time when it was tethered to a PC. Anything that is tethered, I was really against. I really didn't like the whole setting up process for say like
Yeah,
a Windows mixed reality headset or the HTC Vive, the original one. But the Oculus Quest changed that for me, like because it is tetherless, and you can just or untethered rather, and you can just put it on whenever you want. And it's basically a smartphone that you stick to your face. That made it a lot more approachable to me, and I have used the Oculus Quest a lot more as a result. However, I didn't upgrade to the Oculus Quest 2. Like it wasn't that integral to me that I felt like I needed to get a new one. So I still have an Oculus Quest 1, and they've, to Facebook's credit, they have supported this thing very well. It's even been updated to be able to do the things that like to a worse extent, but it can do like you no longer need the controllers. You can just tap on things within the virtual world using your hands. It has hand tracking now, all of which wasn't there when it first launched. So like they've done a good job of that. And I played Vader Immortal on there. I played a whole bunch of video games, Beat Saber.
right.
I've had an excellent time. But for the use cases that Apple presented, which if you go back and watch it, is primarily 2D apps, basically iPad apps floating around and following you. They didn't show many 3D experiences. They showed a couple, but it was mostly, here's your mail app, here's a web browser, here's basically a virtual desktop, more or less, that floats
Yeah.
around and follows you. I am not using the Quest 2 for that. I'm not using a mixed reality headset. No one's using a HoloLens for that. Like, nobody's doing that. Like, people prefer sitting in real life and looking at a screen or screens for that. They don't want to put a VR headset on so they can have those screens follow you around. And that's what surprised me the most about Apple's demos, is that a lot of them were just a man in a kitchen and he's got a web browser open and something else open over here, or or at work, and the same thing. Like, no, people are just going to use a computer for that. They're just going to use a physical keyboard, mouse, and a
Yeah.
display for that.
Oh, they showed someone doing FaceTime, right? You can do FaceTime through it, which is kind of funny because it's like, well, how did they see you? Well, it like scans your face and
It
creates
scans your
a
face.
3D emoji of you
Yeah.
that is more realistic than a memoji, whatever they call their
Right.
things, but it's not
It's still
totally there.
uncanny valley for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like all this. First of all, how many of us are like? I see how people use FaceTime. I have family members and friends that have FaceTime. Most of them, not all, but most people just do a FaceTime call. They pick up their phone, they call the person. Few people schedule that call, right? I'm sure there's
Right.
some people who are like across the world. It's 11 a.m. my time. I'm supposed to
Yeah.
call you. I'm sure that happens. In which case, yeah, go put a headset on, I guess. Um, but how many? Why do you have a FaceTime call coming on your phone? What are you going to just drop your phone and go put this thing on
Right.
and take the
Well,
call? Could you
I
do
think
that
that
fast enough?
I think that speaks to Apple's thought process of this being like people will wear this all day. Like once you've got one, you're not going to take it off, which I think is bonkers and insane. If that's how
Yeah.
they think people will use this, they are gonna miss the mark entirely. And the reason for that is because it's a VR headset. And I got into a lot of hot water for saying this on Twitter. But the Vision Pro is not an AR device. It's not. It's
Yeah.
a VR device that
It's
has
a
augmented.
virtual augmented device with VR.
Yeah, exactly. It's not an AR device. HoloLens 2 is an AR device. It's a when you and both me and Dan have worn an HoloLens 2, and I think Dan, you will agree with me when I say this. When you put a HoloLens 2 on, you don't feel blocked out from the world. It's not
Yeah.
it's not pressed against your face. It's not covering or trying to block out all the light from the real world so the screens look best because it doesn't need to. It's basically a translucent pane which projects holograms onto the pane, and then it looks like it's in the real world. That's how HoloLens 2 works in a basic terminology.
Yeah.
Whereas the Apple Vision Pro and any AR headset, a VR headset, sorry, is like locked to your face. It has to block out all of the light so the screens look the best and look the most immersive. And that is the antisocial nature of VR headsets. And I think a lot of people misunderstand me when I say that, that's the biggest difference between AR and VR. AR is much more sociable, much more approachable. It's like wearing, if you've got wireless headphones on, you take one headphone out. That's what AR is. So that's what the HoloLens 2 is. You're present with the world. You can hear what people are saying. You can look at them. They can see you. You can see them. It's perfectly fine. You can hear them. A VR headset like the Vision Pro is like wearing both headphones in. If you walk around in the street and you see somebody wearing both headphones, you know not to approach them or not to disturb them unless it's really important. They are isolated from the world, and you're isolated from them. That's the Vision Pro, and then obviously the ultimate goal is no headphones at all. That is a pair of glasses, like reading glasses or whatever. That's the end goal, which I hope everybody's trying to get to. But this Vision Pro thing is a VR headset, and the fact that Apple is trying to present it as an AR device, I think is going to confuse people. The whole eye thing on the front, so it has a screen on the front which can project a virtual version of your eyes, and this is supposed to mitigate the whole antisocial aspect of a VR headset, because the thinking is, oh, people will be more willing to approach you if they can see your eyes, except it's not your eyes, it's a virtualized version of your eyes projected on a 2D screen. And I was just thinking, if I'm sitting down with somebody and they're wearing an Apple Vision Pro and I'm looking at their virtual eyes, I'm going to feel like an idiot. What am I doing talking to this person? And I would hope the person wearing the headset feels the same. And so what's going to happen in real life is whenever somebody comes up to you to talk to you wearing an Apple Vision headset, you're going to take the headset off. You're just going to do it. That's what's going to happen. And that's why people aren't going to wear it as often, because they'll be putting it on, taking it off constantly. It's not like a pair of glasses that you can keep on all day. This is not what that product is.
Yeah, and not to mention the battery pack is 2 hours. You have 2 hours
Oh
of
yeah,
battery.
and it has a battery pack. We didn't even talk about that.
Yeah. So you still kind of get the tethered feel, but it's not that bad. But they did that so it would be lighter on the head. That said, they only showed in one video clip briefly, but there's a second strap, an
Goes
optional
over your head.
strap for
Yeah,
this thing that goes across the top. HoloLens had that too.
but you don't need it for HoloLens.
HoloLens 1 has a rubber strap that goes
That's right.
across the
HoloLens
top.
2 doesn't. It doesn't have that.
HoloLens 2, right. And so, and part of that's the problem is because they made it out of metal and glass, Apple.
Yeah, they.
And again,
Yeah,
Joanna Stern from Wall Street Journal kind of complained. She took a picture of herself that she had a red mark on her forehead and
that's
nose
VR.
area.
You
Yeah,
don't.
and that was only after 30 minutes.
You don't get that with HoloLens 2. If you remember, the HoloLens 2, all the weight of it rests on the head bit here. It doesn't rest on your nose, unlike HoloLens 1. If
Yeah,
you remember, you'd wear HoloLens 1 and your nose would get sore because it's
yeah,
so heavy and it was sitting on the bridge of your nose. HoloLens 2, they fixed that. So the headset basically rests in front of your face, and it doesn't touch your face at all, and it's hanging from the headband that goes around your head. That
And
is
it's
so much more
equal weight
comfortable.
between the rear and the front. They
Yeah,
balanced it
yeah,
perfectly.
absolutely. Yeah,
I mean, HoloLens 2 is really comfortable. Like it was like putting
it
on a
really
baseball
is.
hat.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally
It
agree. And it's so
is
much more. It feels light as well. And HoloLens 2, again, you don't feel like you're strapping into an augmented reality. It's just the hat you wear, more or less, and it's got like a visor that comes down. But you
yeah.
don't feel blocked out. There's no like, all right, let me get this thing on. It's just like it's just on. Like there's no like this. It's really hard to describe to somebody who hasn't worn VR stuff. Like if you're listening to this and you've never experienced VR AR, you're not going to understand what I'm saying. But putting this on an Oculus Quest is so much more of a process than putting on a HoloLens 2. It just is, and that again is a key difference between AR and VR.
Not to mention if you had a cable with a battery, you'd have to pick that up and
Right?
juggle
Yeah,
it.
with
You
the
had to
Vision
power
Pro.
it
Yeah.
on for a brief second. You would just have
Yeah.
black until it boots up. Yeah, how many people are going to have this ready to go within seconds? Put your battery in the back pocket kind of thing. Then you only got 2 hours, which is not even enough time to watch a lot of movies these days. Yeah, you could have multiple batteries, I presume, but
I
now
would
you're
hope
buying
so.
multiple batteries, or maybe you're going to buy a bigger battery, in which case it weighs more.
Oh, my favorite,
Uh,
my favorite thing Apple said on stage was that the Apple Vision Pro lasts 2 hours with the battery pack, or all day when plugged in.
all day battery life if you plug it in. That's what they
That's
said. It's
what
like all
they
day battery
literally
life if you
said
plug
on
it in.
stage. I couldn't believe it. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. So you plug it in and now, yeah. I want to get back to also this idea that the antisocial nature of this, because all the videos showed one person by themselves
I
in an
know.
apartment
Well, actually,
on a couch.
there were a couple
Oh,
where
except for
it
the,
was like a dad, and he was like,
yeah, the
like
kids.
looking at his kids through the Vision headset, and I was like, this is so out of touch for Apple. Like this is
Yeah,
insane.
yeah, there was a scene with the father and his kid's birthday, and the wife was there, and he hits a button to 3D record it, and it looks so creepy and strange. And it's like, yeah, but he can go back later and rewatch his memories in this 3D format, which I guess is kind of cool. There was actually yeah, it just reminds me of a movie, but like this idea of like we just sit around watching our memories is just like kind of bizarre. Um, like I get it, but it's also weird, right? Because as a species, we're kind of supposed to move forward. But like, so he gets to watch his memories again of that scene over and over again, 3D, high fidelity. What does the family remember though? They remember the dad just staring at them with his headset on, and like
You've
that's
never seen
their
his real
memory.
eyes. It's just
Yeah. It's like, is that what you want, for everyone else to have that same memory that you're not in? I don't know. It's bizarre. So, but again, they're trying to, I guess, come up with creative use cases for this. But the rest of the presentation always showed someone like alone in an apartment sitting on a couch,
yeah,
you know, or and it was just like, or alone in an office working on a document. And it was kind of depressing. And it kind of goes against a lot of what Apple is about, which is like family and interaction. And, even FaceTime itself is about that connection with someone that you get instantly with them. And now, like, this is my problem. It's like, how many people, okay, if you're in your 20s or 30s and you live by yourself, okay, this is fine. I have no problem with this. You come home, you slap this on, and you go into your your virtual world or whatever. But like you have a family or a significant other,
right.
like are you gonna come home from work and be like, hey honey, all right, great, you make dinner, and then you sit on the couch and you put this thing on and like shut out the world like that? I can't, you mentioned that, like you couldn't imagine going up to that person and disrupting them almost, right? Because
Yeah,
it's like
right.
when you have that much of a mask on, and if you don't see their eyes, they can't see you, right?
Yeah,
Like when you don't always see their eyes. If they're in the VR portion of this, it just goes to that
it
shimmery
goes. Yeah,
graphic.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then like if you start talking to them, they'll like turn the dial, then their weird eyes would fade, their digital
This
eyes
is
would fade in.
genuinely a thing from Black Mirror. I don't remember the name of the episode, but it's the episode where they can like rewind memories and you can view memories. When they do that
Yeah.
motion and they're looking at their memories, their eyes like glaze over and they have like a sort of mist to them.
Yeah.
It's the exact same thing as the Vision Pro. I'm so surprised somebody at Apple didn't realize that, oh, we're basically building this thing from Black Mirror, because I feel like a lot of this, what Apple announced, is really tone deaf. It's really against the whole, that Apple's all about like digital health and all this other stuff. And then they come
Yeah.
out with this thing, and it's so against all of that. It's bring the screens to as close to your eyeballs as possible, and then block yourself out from the real world, please. It's so against what Apple's been saying up until this point.
And to be clear, what Zach's kind of referring to is on the iPhone, there is, and you see it on Android too, right? Is this
Yeah,
digital health thing where it tries to restrict your screen on time to let you know what you did last week versus this week, and you can control things and set reminders so that you're not on your phone all the time. And it's like, yeah, stop and enjoy the real world, that kind of thing. And now it's like, yeah, you're right. Like now strap on to 4K screens to your face, shut out the world. And like, okay, you can watch a movie. Like, how many of us are at home sitting on a couch watching a movie with a headset on? Like,
I
I
know.
mean,
Yeah.
if you live by yourself, fair enough. But like, if you have just one person living with you, like, I don't know, maybe they want to watch the movie too. And now what? So you could both do it on the headset for 7 grand.
That's
Like,
a good
it
point.
seems like,
Like,
I mean,
did Apple announce whether or not you could have two headsets interacting with like the same virtual space? I bet you can't.
doesn't look like that. The one cool thing they showed was if you have the headset on and you have a MacBook that's on, and you look at the MacBook, it can then project a MacBook screen into your virtual world,
But that's such
and
a
you can
basic
control it.
implementation of that idea. I would want it so that you can just drag app windows out into the real world. Why does it have to just be a virtual display? Why can't I just like take individual apps and do that? That's kind of what I want.
But I find this thing like, I mean, and if you ever use VR, it is a kind of antisocial thing, right? Now, like they showed a use case on an airplane. Okay, yeah, I get that. You
That's
slap it
cool.
on an
Yeah.
airplane and you're going to watch a movie for 2 hours until your battery runs out, right? Although it's still a big kind of honking ski mask that you're putting on. It's strange.
Also, I'm not
But like,
convinced. I'm not convinced that there's enough space for them to be able to do because the one thing we haven't talked about yet is Apple's headset has no controllers. It's all hands. Everything you do is with your hands. There's some gestures, but you can reach out and you can touch
yeah.
things. And again, obviously the Quest Pro isn't the Vision Pro. Maybe this is different, but with the Quest Pro, I've noticed that for that to accurately work, you need to everything needs to be about here for it to be proper. So you can reach out. You can't just do it all here because it won't be able to track you. If I've sat in an economy plane seat many times, and I know that
Oh,
this about
no, you
that
don't.
close.
You don't need to. You don't reach out with the Apple one. It's all, to their credit, it's all done with the eyes.
Oh
Wherever you
yes,
look,
that's right.
the thing highlights, and you can literally have your hand down by your side, and
That's
like you
right.
pinch
You're
your
right.
fingers together or you drag and drop. But yeah, you don't need to reach out. To their credit, I think that is a more interesting use case for
That's right.
interaction. You're right, with HoloLens, you are literally reaching out to the thing.
Yeah.
Um, but there's no haptics, no haptic
No
feedback,
haptics. They've
obviously.
not. Well, I'm surprised they haven't. Everyone's got an Apple Watch. Be like, well, when you touch things, the Apple Watch does a little buzz, and I've realised that won't be the same as like
It's a
touching your
solvable
fingertips.
problem. Like you could get gloves that
Yeah,
vibrate
yeah. I'm sure this is all
so
stuff
that where
they've
you're
they've thought
typing.
about. Yeah.
Yeah, but then you're talking about another accessory, like you're going to suit up. But I saw this question, like, dude, I've heard all sorts of like weird scenarios from people. People are like, like instead of me having like three displays in a computer, I could just use this. I'm like, yeah, but you probably already have the three displays in a computer. So what are you going to
Yeah.
do? Throw those out? Like,
Sell
how many
them.
people start from scratch? Like, if you're starting from scratch and you're going to get your first computer, okay, maybe the Vision Pro can work. But if you already have a bunch of displays and a computer, like, what you just going to throw all that out? But I think, just in terms of eye fatigue, like I said, some people complain even after 30 minutes, it got heavy because it is a heavy device. Um, but like, let's just say even after 30 minutes, like, how many hours a day are you going to wear this thing for? Now, I get it. If you're dropping $3,500 on it, you're going to try to use it more because you need to justify the fact you dropped
Yeah.
$3,500 on it. So I guarantee we will have people like, I spent 6 hours in it, and like you will have those people because it's just like buying a gym membership, right? A lot of people buy a gym membership with the idea like, well, I'm paying, so I need to go to the gym now,
Yeah.
otherwise I'm wasting money. And that does work for some people, but for a lot of people, it still doesn't work, right? So like, but I don't know, even if they bring the price down to $2,000, which would be a huge drop in price, right? That's almost half off.
Yeah.
Uh, Even at $2,000, if you can only use this thing for a couple hours a day at most, is that still worth it? You just talked about how you didn't want to buy an $1,800 phone,
Yeah.
in part, granted, was the UI and stuff like that, but like that would be that thing you would use all the time. Like where the phone
Yeah.
is the most used digital device right now. So how many of us are going to have a $2,000 accessory, like a side device? This was the issue with Surface Duo in some ways, and Neo as well, right? Neo was going to be basically a side computer for some people. How many of us can afford a $2,000 side computer?
Right.
And I just said it's 2,000. The real price is 3,500, right? But let's give them the benefit of the doubt. I don't know. Do you think, and I guess that's the question here. Now we're all talking about a V1 product. And ideally, Apple wants to have this vision of like we just put on Ray-Bans in the future and it's the same
Right.
thing.
That's my
I
hope.
think that future is like 5, 10 years away.
Yeah.
Like it's not even close. And I do give him credit in the sense that maybe this is that first step, right? You got to start somewhere, even if it's rough, and you get there eventually. But still, like, do you really think facial computing is the future? I'm 50-50 on this. It's like because a lot of it is like people are like, even with this device right now, they're like, yeah, it's kind of neat, but there's not a lot you can do in it that's different than the real world. Okay, you can make a movie screen really big.
Yeah.
Okay, um, it's a little bit more immersive. Yeah, I mean that's kind of neat. But like, are you going to put this on instead of using like you can get up in the morning, you're just going to put these like say light glasses on, goggles, and that's how you just spend your day? Um, I don't
No.
know,
Not with those.
maybe.
I would say for me as somebody who is a really big fan of this whole idea of like ambient computing on your face, the vision that Apple has and indeed most VR companies is too overkill for what I would really want a wearable computer to do. All I need it to do is
Heads
basically
up
heads up
display.
display, notifications, time, maybe directions for like Google Maps or whatever, and maybe if we're able to fit it all in, like an AI driven thing that can recognize I don't know, fruit or objects, and it can give you a bit of information about it. That's all I need to do. I don't need to be running web browsers and apps and documents and stuff on it. I just need it to basically relay notifications from my phone and do the other things I just mentioned. I don't want it to do anything more than that. I really don't. This whole idea of it being something you can watch movies on or um, play video games or whatever it is Apple thinks you're going to be doing with it. I don't need most of that. I just want the information thing, the ambient computing aspect, and then at the end of the day, I can come home, I can take it off, and I can go about my house and do normal things in my house. That's really what I'm hoping because I wear glasses normally now. I have to have them because I'm going blind. But and glasses aren't a thing people question. It's not like it's weird that you're wearing glasses. It's just everyone accept glasses, and if we can get that aspect of it right and have the ambient computing stuff as well. Again, it doesn't need to be doing all this VR nonsense. It just needs to be an
Yeah.
ambient device. I'm there for that, and I think that is technically possible. But so far, all these companies have just proven that they don't really know that that's what we want. Everyone's like, "Here's that gaming. Here's a massive virtual environment." So I don't want any of that. I really
I know
don't.
they showed like now granted, this thing's going to release and developers are going to get it and they're going to make some really great stuff. Don't get me like and I
Yeah.
mean great in the sense it looks cool. But like one of the things they showed was like a woman laying on a bed staring at the ceiling and it's like looking at the stars. And it's like get the F like okay, I know it would be cool and it would look amazing. How often are you going to do that?
I'm not laying in
Like,
bed
do
with
you
a
go
VR
to bed
headset on
every night and you're like, oh, time
ever.
to look at the stars and put my headset on with the battery pack in your pocket? Look, it's Orion. I don't know. Maybe go look at the real stars
Yeah.
outside.
Right.
Like,
Oh
that's one thing I
dear.
live in the suburbs where every time I walk the dog and I'm like, oh, stars are out. I actually can see the
Yeah.
stars. It reminds me of like when the iPad came out and they had and especially the iPhone too, and they had a similar star map software. Remember, and you hold up the phone to the
Yeah, that's
sky.
right.
That was cool for 8 minutes.
Yep. Yep.
And then I never used it again. Because what the hell? How many? Unless you're a literal astronomer, in which case that's not a good solution. You're gonna be like, oh, if I'm a real astronomer, I probably have a real telescope.
Right.
I don't know. Like I feel like some of the stuff is definitely eye candy, and Apple's very good at eye candy. But it's the reality. It's just like HoloLens. HoloLens had a lot of eye candy in it. It's fascinating to use. I'm still blown away by it. If you were to try HoloLens version 1, you'd still be blown away. Now, granted, HoloLens had the problem. it still has the problem of the scope of vision, right? Your field of
Yes, it's
view
very
is still
small.
tiny.
Yeah.
But that's a solvable problem. It's just going to take time and engineering to make that. And that's what they are working on, right? So that it is a bigger field of vision. And you don't have that issue here since it's totally immersive VR at times. But yeah, I agree. That company North was doing
Right.
exactly what
And
you
that's who I
said, right?
think of.
They
That's
had,
who I think of when I
yeah.
basically
And then
present that
Google
vision.
bought them and
Did
went into
nothing.
some Google hell.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe Google will come out someday. But you're right. And we've talked about this before with Lenovo Think Reality A3 glasses, which
Yeah.
are back on my shelf over there, which you plug in and it needs a GPU and stuff like that. But that creates unlimited virtual displays that float in and you can kind of interact with and stuff like that for your Windows PC. And then they have the new ones that are coming, Think glasses A1, I think they are, something like that, which are way simpler. They're lighter. They're literally like basically more like thicker sunglasses, and that just has a single Type C plug that you can plug into your phone or your Windows computer, and it gives you one single virtual display that floats in there. Then you have In Real Air, which I still need to review. Um, that does something similar as well. And what's cool about these products, one, they're way cheaper, right? The In Real Air is like I think $299, but it's very specific. It has a specific purpose. You plug it in, it gives you a single floating horizontal virtual display. You can then turn your laptop's display off and you're good. You have privacy. Now, is the resolution as good as Apple's? Of course not. And that'll be an issue, but that's again solvable as the technology evolves. But I agree with you in that sense that like sometimes having these devices have a specific function. And I don't even know if I would want a heads-up display glasses. On one sense, a tech geek inside of me totally says, "Yeah, I want that." I
Right.
don't know if I would necessarily be using it or how good it would be. But sure, yeah, you're walking around, notification pops in, and it's like, oh, cool. Um, and then eventually, yeah, you can get things with if it has an outside camera using machine learning, you can scan things, identify things.
Yeah.
Like that's cool. Do I want to use it as a base computer though? And I don't know.
Mm.
I think it's going to be really cool for like 5 minutes, but I think over time people are going to use it less and less. And I don't think it has anything to do with the price. I don't think it has anything to do with the quality. And I don't even think it has much to do with the size. I think it just has to do with the modality. I think a lot of people are just going to be like, they'll use it in certain situations, but that's like the beauty of what HoloLens came to be. HoloLens, they quickly learned, has really good use cases for specific functions. It's cool for surgeons, it's great for engineers, it's great for repair people, it's great for designers. It has if you use it for those functions, it's really, really cool. But if you're just a general user, I don't know. And we'll have to wait
Yeah.
and see with this. I know a lot of people are like, yeah, but this is Apple. Everybody said that about the Apple Watch. And like, and people bring up the Apple Watch and say, the same thing. And I'm like, no, that you can't say that with the Apple Watch. You can't even say that with the iPhone. Yeah, the iPhone we all made fun of because it didn't have a keyboard at the time. It had no apps either,
Yeah.
reminder, which are very fair criticisms, by the way, that they improved over time. They got apps and stuff like that. But the iPhone was fundamentally a phone, a tried and true category,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
We've all had phones. By that point, we all had cellular phones. This was just a different take on a cellular phone. And we even had smartphones by then. We had Windows Mobile, we had Palm, we had BlackBerry, and then we had Apple, right? So we already, now I'll give Apple credit. They did mainstream it. Yes, absolutely. They did pull that off. But no one was questioning necessarily the entire function of the device. You do need a phone. It has a nice screen. You can view photos and take pictures. Like all that was unquestioned. It was more about the implementation and the design of it was questionable, but it worked out. Then there's the Apple Watch. People are like, oh, the Apple Watch, same thing. I'm like, no, see, here's the thing. The Apple Watch, at the end of the day, is a watch.
Yeah.
Another tried and true category that's been around for 150 years. We all need watches. Everybody wears a watch. And Casio was the first to really sort of merge this idea of like watches can be more with the calculator watch, which came out 30 at that time, 35 years prior, right? The
Right.
calculator watch, if you were in the 80s, was the coolest thing ever. They even had watches with little TVs and radios in them that were coming out. Um, so it's not like it was like a new idea. So I had no problems with the Apple Watch. It was more about what else can it do? But then it became obvious with the health stuff. We already had Fitbit at the time. All they needed to do was make an Apple Watch with Fitbit in it, and they eventually did that, right? Um, so no, that wasn't the issue. That category tried and tested. The iPad, well, tablets and tablet computing have been around for a while as well. So that was an existing category, which they came in and yeah, basically kind of perfected it. And to their credit, but no one was like a tablet. That's a crazy idea. Do I ever want to use a tablet? A lot of people saw the value in using a tablet. And we had two-in-one PCs that were kind of doing the same thing. Now, I personally don't have a use for a tablet, but I always said that's me. I never said that other people don't. So I see a big difference here between, and I don't get why people give that credit to Apple in this case. This is a very different concept. This is space computing. There is no successor, no concept right now of face computing being a thing that necessarily people want. In fact, rehashing the VR AR thing, I would say that category has entirely failed to this point. And I apologize if you're a gamer or someone that uses these devices regularly. I know that group exists and they love their devices and God bless them, but like it has not caught on in this metaverse idea, which to Mark Zuckerberg's credit, he says Apple's vision of this stuff is very different from mine. I see, and we joke around about the metaverse, but the metaverse at least is supposed to be a social thing. You're supposed to put it on and interact with other people around the world. You see floating versions of them. It's supposed to be a way to actually interact with other people, whereas Apple's vision is no, you put it on and you're going to work on a Microsoft spreadsheet because, yeah, it does support Microsoft apps. Like, I mean, I don't know. Maybe that is a different vision. So that's why I'm hesitant to say now maybe Apple will pull this off. If any company could pull it off, it would be Apple. I'll give them that. But
Oh yeah,
and people,
that's the point.
yeah, go ahead.
Apple will pull this off, but it won't be with the Vision Pro. That is a developer or enthusiast grade product, and it always will be. I look at it like the Mac Pro. Apple makes the Mac Pro, yeah, and I'm sure some people buy it, but nobody you know is buying a Mac Pro. Nobody I know is buying a Mac Pro. Like this is what the Vision Pro is, and I fully believe that this is going to be like a Vision Air or a Vision Lite, or that it will turn into something else and it will become something more successful. And Apple is in a position to do it, and it will be exactly like Android and iOS. Google will come up with its own platform in the next couple of years. Samsung will build the hardware for it,
Yeah.
and it will be Google, Samsung, Apple fighting for the mixed reality top spot, and that's what it's going to be. That is what it's going to be. But what we're seeing right now is just the beginning. It's like the Gen 1 era of this new era, of this new form factor, in my opinion. And it won't be until Gen 3, Gen 4 from all companies, being Apple, Samsung, Google, that where we actually start to see this become more useful and make more sense for more people, as in my opinion anyway.
Yeah, and we'll at least see which direction these companies go in
Yeah.
because you know, Meta is going in its more social vision, also more affordable.
I don't see
You
Meta
know,
in the running. I really don't. I see Meta basically doing what Microsoft does and building the enterprise version. But if you're looking at consumer interest, I don't see why a consumer would be
well,
interested in
Quest
what Meta's
3.
building. Yeah, but that's game. Okay, yeah, for gaming, sure. Yeah, yeah. But even then, what if Apple can figure out gaming for their VR headset, which I haven't seen any evidence that they can. Like they didn't. I don't think they
They
showed
don't
us.
have controllers.
Yeah, yeah, right, exactly. They don't think they even showed a single game like that. If Apple can do that, then I think the Quest is dead, in my opinion. If obviously if Apple can bring price down.
Quest is still $500 though.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. If the the
And
price
as I
issue
said,
aside,
Zuckerberg's vision here is very different. He wants you to put it on and be able to join a
I get
social
yeah,
world that you can interact with and like visit places, you can have your house, that
yeah,
whole
yeah,
thing,
yeah,
which is kind of, what Microsoft was doing with Windows Mixed Reality. You were supposed to have the Cliff House, they called it, but the idea eventually was you would be able to come over to my virtual
right,
house
yeah,
and we could hang out virtually. That's that's the meta vision. It's very social, whereas Apple's vision's not. And then you have Google with North and possibly this idea of like a heads-up display kind of device, and then who knows what Samsung's working on, and then there's Microsoft's, thing. So they're all kind of going off in a little bit different directions. But
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know,
No,
like
Quest will go down the gaming route, and then in that case, it'll be competing with like HTC and Steam, right? That'll be that. But I'm
yeah,
talking more ambient computing. The whole ambient computing aspect of it, I don't see Quest ever being a real contender there. Um,
right.
that's certainly going to be more Apple, Samsung, Google forte. I'd like to say
I don't know if I
Microsoft.
would even call Apple's ambient computing because it seems
Not
like
yet.
it's
No,
just
I'm not
full
saying yet,
computing.
but I'm saying in the future, like Gen 3, Gen 4, this is where they're going, right? There's no way this is the product and that's the end of it. That it's going to
Yeah,
get thinner.
well, what I'm saying is, in terms, like I think ambient computing versus like full on. I feel like ambient computing is a very light. It's basically the heads-up display version.
Yes,
It's literally that's like augmented reality where
that's the
it's
goal,
literally
I
adding
assume.
bits of info to your real
Yeah.
world or your phone. I think what Apple has done though is just basically put a full computer onto your face,
Yeah,
and I think that's
I
going to
in
be
that point I disagree. Yeah, I think that's not going to work. I don't think any company is going to be able to
yeah,
build a mass market version of that because I don't think people want it. I know I don't.
yeah, and that's what I'm saying. It'll be curious to see how the market responds to it if that's what people want. I personally don't think
No.
that's what people want either, but yeah, who knows? We've been wrong in the past, right? So, but it is a and getting back, to wrap this segment up, I know it's been a long segment, but uh, it's still curious that they're going down this route, AR, VR, where the market is basically fallen flat. Metaverse, which of course they didn't even mention, and has, as far as I can tell, no connection to it whatsoever because it's a solo device. They're going down that route where everyone else has pulled back on that. Even Microsoft's pulled back on it, and there was no mention of AI, right? They did have machine
Right.
learning. Machine learning is a subset of AI technically, but machine learning is using mathematics and algorithms to enhance a feature. So in that case, for the spatial audio, not spatial audio, the adaptive audio, that's machine learning. It's augmenting your audio capabilities. But actual AI in the general sense is meant to replicate human behavior, and that's what like the generative chatbots are, right? It's supposed to feel like you're talking to a person, and there was nothing from them on AI in
No.
that sense. Uh, th- Siri, did it get any better? Are they doing anything with AI? No. And Siri's terrible now. Like Siri's not good.
Oh, they
And
did. No, they changed one thing. You can now just initiate Siri without saying "Hey."
oh, wild. Uh, I stand corrected. But like it feels like they're missing the whole AI thing, whereas Microsoft is going big in it, and of course Facebook and Meta are going big in it, Amazon is, Google definitely is, and so it's like, where's Apple in this? Yeah, and I get they're doing, and everybody's like, well, Apple they do machine learning and AI, and they just want to blend into the technology. They don't want to make a big deal of it. Yeah, but that's like everybody's been already doing that. Like that's what
Yeah.
spatial audio in a lot of ways is. Like we're using algorithms and machine learning in a lot of our stuff already. Like and I get it makes their products better, but I'm talking about where AI is going right now, and they're just not there at all. Like we just talked about Windows 12 becoming an AI type operating system. Like, does Apple have plans there? Are they? And I know again, I hear the Apple fans. They're like, they're probably working on something in secret. We just don't know about it. They're holding back until all the dust settles and all that. And I'm like, maybe, but is there evidence for that? At least with the
Yeah.
this headset we knew about for
I was gonna
years. There was a
say,
lot of leaks,
Apple is
and
one
they
of
were
those
pretty accurate,
companies
those leaks.
where everything leaks. Everything we know, you can basically piece together Apple's roadmap for the next five
Yeah.
years, and nobody's talking about AI. Mark Gurman, who is like the biggest Apple leaguer, he's the most trustworthy
Yep.
at least. I don't think he's mentioned that they're working on an LLM at all, or of any kind. Like so, it's not in development in that case. It's not a nearby product.
Yeah. Um, yeah. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. I was disappointed with that, or at least I'm concerned that Apple's going to kind of miss this
I
whole
will
thing.
say, actually,
I
I will say that it was nice for a change of pace. Like I feel like we've been hammering AI constantly, and
oh
it
yeah,
was
sure.
nice for a tech event to not be AI focused. But you're right, for Apple customers and Apple itself, this is you should be worried because this is where we're going. This is going to enhance everybody's lives. And if Apple isn't there delivering it, then what are iPhone users going to do? They're going to have to suffer.
And they don't need to call it AI either. They could
I don't
avoid
think they
that
will.
buzzword and
That's
just
so Apple to
just
not call it
yeah,
AI. I really think they
yeah.
won't call it AI.
Yeah, and they're just advertising some like cool smart feature that does stuff, but like
Yeah.
right now they're not there, and I don't know if they have the capability. Like they're not. I don't know if they're doing anything with large language models. Large language models, by its name, implies that it requires a lot of processing power and time to develop and get exposed to. So I don't know. A lot of questions. We'll
Yes.
return to this topic in 5 years, I guess, and see where we are with facial computing. As I said, a lot of people are like, well, and we had that person on Twitter. They were like, yeah, but if Microsoft did this or Surface made this device, would you be saying the same thing? And I'm like, well, that's what we've been saying with HoloLens. Like, it's cool as hell. It's wild. I don't know. I'd use this as a regular device daily. And I have even the Think Reality A3 glasses from Lenovo, much simpler and streamlined. I don't use them ever, and
Yeah.
they're cool.
And
Um,
I'd also
I
say
just don't.
HoloLens gets a pass because it did the smart thing and aim itself directly at enterprises. It's a
Yeah,
device you buy when you're a business that has a specific use case for it. It's not a general purpose computing device like Apple is trying to present the Vision Pro. Like the HoloLens 2 and the Vision Pro are the same price. They are you spend the same amount of money on both. Yet it's we can critique the Vision Pro because they're trying to target it at everybody, at individual consumers
yeah,
who aren't a business. Whereas HoloLens 2 isn't. You would never consider it as an end user anyway. You're not. It's not for you. It's for businesses to buy them in bulk, or maybe not in bulk, but for a specific use case to give to workers. And so that way, that case, it's totally fine to be priced whatever Microsoft wants. They can price it at 10K. Who cares? Enterprises generally don't, so it doesn't matter.
yeah. And to be clear, this is supposed to be a mass market device, 100%.
Yes.
I know a lot of
Yeah.
people are like, questioning that, but no, all the investors expect that because phone sales are basically flat. They're still gaining some share with the iPhone, which is good for them. But for all intents and purposes, everybody has a smartphone. I don't know if you checked.
Yeah.
It's not a growth market anymore. Laptops, not a growth market anymore. It was during the pandemic, and it's not anymore. iPads, definitely not a growth market anymore. If anything, it's been falling off. Apple Watch, slow growth market. It's getting there. It's growing. They're doing pretty well with it. But again, low return, not a lot of money on that one. Not everybody's going to want it and all that kind of stuff. Uh, so Apple really needs like a new category. And ideally, they kind of want this device to supplant the iPhone, but I think it's going to take a while to get there. So we'll see what happens, though. Let's just quickly go through the ROG Ally is coming out next week. You can do pre-orders now. Our review will be going up shortly. I got to finish editing some aspects of it. I didn't review it, but Rebecca Spear did. She's had it for over 2 weeks, so and she has a Steam Deck, and she's a really good gamer, so she has a lot of opinions on it. The TLDR, well, strong performance, extremely comfortable to hold, beautiful display. It runs Windows 11, and there's mappable buttons. The downside, it's pretty expected here. Short battery life and a finicky interface. So, yeah, being able to run Windows 11, pro and con, obviously. The pro is you can turn this thing into like a portable PC. You can plug it into their XG mobile eGPU to really beef it up a desktop. You can plug it in a desktop monitor and keyboard and mouse and use it like that, which is pretty cool. Then you just pop it off and take it with you. You can play any Windows 11 game on it. It's more powerful than Steam Deck, has a better display than Steam Deck. And by the way, she does review it with the XG mobile eGPU. So that's going to be kind of interesting too if you're curious about that thingy. Um, but the battery life, yeah, not great. I think she gets like an hour and a half gaming out of it when playing like even Diablo 4. So the battery life is going to be pretty short on this thing. Um, let's see what the she says. Overall, the Ally is an impressive little device, but it does have one huge flaw. You guessed it, the battery life still isn't great, despite Asus head of marketing Gallup Fu stating the Ally's battery life issue has been improved from what it was in May. Yeah, there was a big update that came out that apparently improved things. Um, in our Steam Deck review, we averaged 3 to 3.5 hours with Valve's handheld, It's even capable of getting up to 7 hours if the settings are lowered. However, with the Ally, I only got 1 hour and 38 minutes on average and only reached a little over 3 hours of playtime when settings were all seriously reduced. And so then she goes through and talks about how she tested for battery life and everything like that. But yeah, um, no surprise, higher resolution display, more powerful a GPU and processor on it. It's going to result in worse battery life. It depends on how you use this. For me, this wouldn't be that big of a deal, to be honest, because I use like my Steam Deck for couch gaming, and I always have a Type C plug there. So there's been occasion I've been playing a game and I have to plug it in while I'm playing, so it's not a problem. But obviously, if you're literally using this thing away from the wall, which is a fair, guess is how people may want to use this thing, 90 minutes of battery life is not going to be fantastic. Um, on the other hand, if you're not around Wi-Fi or you're on an airplane, good luck on playing video games anyway with this thing, as many games require you to have an online presence for them to work, which is pretty lame. Not all though, so you can do offline gaming for some things. But yeah, the battery life, not great at all. So that's a downside. But she loves the display. It's super comfortable. Um, the buttons are nice. Yeah, and the interface thing, it's running Windows 11, so they have to have their crates UI thing overlay so you can quickly access games. But let's be honest, the Steam Deck nailed this. Steam Deck, the reason Steam Deck is so popular is because they did a really good job with the operating system, that it feels natural and native to use, to get into games, to buy games, and all that kind of stuff, where this one's going to be a little bit clunky. This is solvable if Microsoft gets off its tuchus and, optimizes Windows 11 for handhelds, which they've conceptually toyed with, at least in like hackathons. But as officially, we don't know if they're doing anything to do that, which is a shame. You'd hope they would. Um, this is an AMD powered device. AMD is supposed to be very good for battery life. At least that's what all the fanboys tell me. But apparently, it's still not that great here. Can this get better? Yeah. I talked about this at the beginning of the podcast, right? Qualcomm has a new chipset coming out, Orion. Orion will probably be too expensive for such a device, but maybe not. Maybe if it comes down. Um, and then Intel has their new Meteor Lake chips coming out, which I think might be a better fit for this device due to its effectiveness with all the different cores, E cores, P cores, and that generation's chips, the 14 gens, focus on battery efficiency. But we'll have to kind of wait and see. I like to see the competition here. She still gave it 4 out of 5 stars because it does what it's supposed to do very well, except for those two things. But if you're like me, like I said, this wouldn't stop me from buying it. What's stopping me from buying is I already have a Steam Deck, and I don't know if I want to spend $700 on it. Um, but the battery life really wouldn't bother me because, like I said, I would just use it on the couch most of the time anyway. Every time I've taken my Steam Deck with me traveling, I never use it because I'm just busy. I end up doing other things, so that doesn't affect me too much. Zach, what do you think of the Ally? I know you're probably not going to get one, right?
No, I'm not. Again, this is the whole Steam Deck thing. Like, I'm not interested in handheld gaming really. I'm all about that big TV and controller experience. But it's cool that this is a thing that exists, and I hope it propels Microsoft at the very least to adopt or adapt Windows to be better on it. I know you said the battery life's terrible. That's not really anything you can do on the software side. I think things. I don't think, but at the very least, the UX should be nice. And to my understanding, it's all third-party software that's sort of doing the heavy lifting to make it usable. Whereas in reality, the OS should just support form factors like that and be usable. And I don't think it is out of box.
Yeah, I like handheld gaming. I end up using it more sometimes than my desktop PC, but that's also because I sit in front of a PC all day and I don't feel like doing that for gaming necessary. Plus, the thing is, it's like, again, I could be on the couch, Steam Deck, SO on the couch. I can talk to her. I can also watch TV. I can also play with my cats versus having a headset on, which would kind of prevent all of that, right? So that's one reason why I like Steam Deck is I can sit there and use it while still interacting with the world. In other words, very casual gaming. That's one thing I like about that. Where it's again putting on a headset, even if it's Oculus and all that, or whatever, if Apple does gaming, you're committing. You're like, all right, world, goodbye. I'm putting this thing on now, and I'm going to game for 90 minutes. That's a very different experience that some people want. I'm obviously not in that camp, but there you go. Asus ROG Ally. More reviews, I'm sure, will be coming out soon as well. I know. Don't forget, a lot of the reviews that came out earlier were before this big update, so ours does the benchmarks after the update and all that kind of stuff. So it's kind of interesting. But we have a lot more guides there. As well as don't forget Diablo 4. I don't know if you heard, it came out. So yeah, I think we have something like 75 Diablo 4 guides posted already, which is, kudos to our gaming team who've been crushing it. I should also mention they just did the Summerfest wrap up, and there's the Xbox Showcase, I believe it's called, on Sunday. So make sure you tune into that, as we're expecting a lot of news on gaming, and our gaming team is very online at the moment. They're doing a really kick butt job in nailing all that Diablo 4 stuff, which has turned out to be a very good game. I still want to play it, but I haven't had the chance to. So I might try this weekend. Dak, you got anything to wrap up? Thing of the week or anything you want to share?
Yeah, thing of the week. Across the Spider-Verse. 10 out of 10 recommended
Oh,
viewing.
sure.
Fantastic. Very excited for the third one, I guess, coming in, I think, early next year. I won't say the name of it. I don't know if it's a spoiler, but it's coming next year and it's going to be great. And I really enjoyed this movie. I think the Spider-Verse films are easily the best Spider-Man films
I think
of
Tom
recent times.
Holland, who plays Spider-Man, says the Spider-Verse, that
Of
the
course. I mean, why?
series of
Yeah,
films are
because
his
they're better
favorite.
than his films for sure.
Well, I would say for sure. I think his movies are really good. I mean, but
Yeah, well, maybe.
uh, I got to rewatch the first
No Way
one. I
Home
actually
was good.
bought
I'll
it,
give you
but
that.
yeah. But yeah, you're right. It's Rotten Tomatoes. I think it's like 96%. It's got really high scores. So yeah, it's one of those no-brainer movies I think people should go see. I haven't seen it yet myself, but I still got to watch Guardians of the Galaxy 3. So I'm definitely behind on stuff. Hopefully I can catch up. I don't I probably did watch a movie this week, but I already forgot it. So I don't think I have anything else to share. I was supposed to hopefully get my Yoga Book 9i review out. That didn't happen. Sorry, I got stuck in a lot of meetings this week. It is up for pre-sale at Best Buy, so you can go check it out there, though. Fingers crossed, I should have the review out next week, though. But the TLDR is it's a great laptop. I've already said this before in the previous podcast, but it's way better than I expected. The battery life is surprisingly good. In fact, I was talking about this with Michael Fisher, aka Mr. Mobile. His video should be coming out real soon on it, so you want to go check that out. He's usually a lot more critical, I think, or skeptical of these devices than I am, especially since he's not really a Windows user. But as far as I know, he's going to give this thing a pretty positive review. We're talking about battery life, and he said that he got 6 hours on it the other day with using both dual screens at the same time. I know that's not a ton like a battery life, but in a way it is because this is two 13.3-inch 2K OLED displays that are touch. Like
Right.
you would think that, this thing would get like gaming laptop battery life, but no, the battery life is actually it's pretty impressive considering everything there. But the other great thing about this laptop is it has everything in it. It has human presence detection, an excellent web camera, Windows Hello. It's got nice haptics. It's got the pen. It's got the physical keyboard. And as far as I can tell, I haven't had an issue with the Bluetooth and physical keyboard. I'm curious about Fisher, what he says about this, because he previously didn't like this experience with Bluetooth keyboards, which is sometimes you get that delay, right? I have never experienced a delay yet with this. It's one to one, it feels like. But it's just really nice hardware, and it's a really cool device. And like I said, if you're going to use it to set up at like a coffee shop and use that stand and all that, it's a game changer in a lot of ways. If you just need a straight up laptop though, that you're literally going to use in your lap, yeah, just get a Yoga 9i. You don't need to get the Yoga book, but stay tuned for that. All exciting stuff. Yeah, that does it for me. We'll do quick Q&A with the audience right now. As always, you can follow me on Twitter. It's Daniel_Rubino, Rubino. Follow Zach as DACBOWDEN. We do record this live every Friday, 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time on our Windows Central channel at YouTube. And you can watch the live broadcast there, join in the conversation, and ask us questions. But you don't get to hear the Q&A part, unfortunately, if you're listening to this recorded. But as always, thanks for listening. We'll talk to you next time. Take care, everyone.
Wonderful.
Yeah, look at that. We
Seriously, if you
still
have any
did an hour and
questions,
40 minutes.
yeah. If you have any questions, now's the time. Yeah, right. We were saying nothing to talk about. Longest podcast ever.
Pretty frustrated that Xbox doesn't work with the ultra wide monitor without letterboxing. One of the bigger frustrations. I get the frustration, but let's be clear that the Xbox is primarily 99% designed for TV usage. It's it's neat that you can use it almost like as a PC these days, but yeah, they didn't build it to necessarily do that. And Xbox games aren't optimized to be like that. Could developers optimize their games to support various resolutions and aspect ratios? Absolutely. Is the return there for them to do so? Absolutely not. I would say the amount of people using consoles as on an ultra wide monitor has got to be really, really small percentage. So that's probably not the answer you want to hear. That's probably the reality of it, unless that changes anytime soon. That's why PCs versions of games exist, though.
Do you think that's new Spotlight UX is for Moment 4 still? I'm not too sure what Spotlight UX you're talking about. Is Microsoft making HoloLens 3? I saw the HoloLens team was cut. There was a HoloLens 3 that was apparently cancelled. Microsoft's official sort of public stance on this is that they will make a new HoloLens when their customers are asking for it, which
The
suggests that
HoloLens
enterprise
team wasn't cut. It was
the layoffs
part
affected them, I
of
think.
yeah, but it was mostly part of the other teams, the metaverse teams and the other
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
virtual reality and mixed reality
But
kind of
there were
stuff.
reports before the layoffs that the HoloLens team were kind of all over the place in regards to what they were actually
Yeah.
should
Well,
be working on
and
and
they
stuff.
they divided that whole department into software and hardware,
The
right?
hardware went to Panos Panay, I'm pretty sure, didn't it? If I remember rightly,
Yeah.
it went under Panos. So who knows?
But yeah, they did. Microsoft did say they're going to do HoloLens 3, but it's going to be a meaningful update, which
Yeah,
makes sense. Enterprise won't want to buy HoloLens 2.5 effectively.
you
Oh,
know,
we made the processor slightly better. We changed this. They wanted like a significant, like HoloLens 2 is a really massive advance over HoloLens 1. There's no doubt about
yeah,
it.
it's huge.
It has better sensors, newer sensors. It's ergonomically much better designed. Like it's a massive update. They want another generational jump before they do HoloLens 3 for that market, because
Yeah,
otherwise enterprise customers won't want to buy something in the middle.
here's what I will say: the Hololens under Alex Kipman, in regards to software, was kind of stuck. I don't think it. I think it was on Windows 10 still. Then Alex Kipman departed last year, and Panos took charge, and now HoloLens 2 is getting Windows 11. I believe this month. It's supposed to be getting it soon. That I think speaks wonders in regards to it continued to being supported. I think with it being under Panos now, I think it's more likely that we're going to see stuff from HoloLens again than if it went under some some Azure team or
Yeah,
something.
I mean, it's probably like with phones with him, right?
Yeah,
They want to make sure that they have a vision, get it right. So I'm sure they'll do something in this space. But, Kipman's original argument was until we can get it below $1,000 or less, we're not going to do a consumer play. And
yeah.
even Apple can't get it to be $1,000 or less. So I think we still have some time to go. Dan, can you explain more your argument about AR/VR is a failing category? Why is it? So the reason I say it's a failing category is because every year it was supposed to be like almost like this is the year of Linux on desktop. Like, oh, Microsoft's 11 and Windows 11, it spies on you. Here comes Linux. And it's like, no, it's never happening. And that's kind of the case with AR, VR. Now, really exploded in 2021 and 2022, especially when Facebook renamed themselves to Meta and the metaverse became, remember, it was metaverse, it was Web3, and then it was NFTs, and of course, a little bit of crypto. That was all the big thing. That was going to be all. And then people were combining all three of them together. Like, that exploded really quickly and really went nowhere fast, right? I cited one of my articles that like the metaverse is supposed to be worth between, I think it was like $9 and $13 billion market by 2030, and it's like okay, but it's just every year this technology has improved and gotten better, maybe even gotten cheaper, and yet the market share and people buying it just keeps falling below expectations. You've seen a lot of studios close. Uh, and it's a small community who are very dedicated, and I'm glad these devices exist for them. I'm not saying, but it's niche. And the question always was, when will this go wider? And Microsoft tried to do it with Windows Mixed Reality in 2018, and I still think that was a bold, really good attempt. If you ever tried Windows Mixed Reality, it is really impressive what they did, and it was really cool. But despite all that, none of us really went back to it and used it routinely. And so, as to why, it's hard to explain, but I think it just comes back to the fact that people don't like putting a mask on to do certain tasks. It's just easier to, like, I'm sitting in front of a 32-inch 6K display right now. Like, it's hard to make me an argument that, like, I need to have a mask on so I can see something at 4K. Like, this display I'm looking at is really nice. Like, I don't know if having floating virtual displays is going to be with a mask on my head is going to be much more comfortable. And I think that's really what the issue is, just that people, you have to, okay, if the device is tetherless, like, what Zach has, you have to remember it's charged up. So now you're charging your watch, you're charging your phone, you're charging your tablet, you're charging your laptop, and now you got to charge your face mask. I think that's just another fatiguing moment. If it's not uh, tetherless, then you have the cable, and that's just not comfortable. You have to plug it in, and sometimes there's bugs and quirks, and then there's still the question of what else do you do in it besides play a video game. And like I said, I think it's the antisocial thing. It's really weird to put on a mask and cut out the rest of the world. If you live by yourself, you're golden. But if you happen to have a significant other you live with or a family, I think it's kind of tough. Um, and I had some people like on Twitter, like, what's the difference of, families are all on their smartphones anyway. I'm like, it's still different. You can still see their faces. You can get their attention. They can look up on their phones. Like, if they all had masks on, it's a very different. You're really shutting things off. So I think it's a complicated answer, and it's not it's complicated because you look at this tech, you try this tech, and we should love it, and we just kind of don't. I don't know why. Yeah, playing VR games is a commitment. It's not easy to check your phone or take a break. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, you can pause your game, well, unless it's a live game. But yeah, a lot of times you can pause, save the game, check your email. Yeah, you're right.
Hey guys, are you by any chance testing the Microsoft Copilot? Not currently, but when it rolls out publicly in the next couple of weeks, well, I definitely will be for sure. Yeah, we'll be hands on with it and testing out all of its capabilities.
Even my dog would be pissed at me if I hid behind a mask. I mean, there's truth to that, right? Our
Yeah.
pets do like to interact with us, but you put a mask on, it's just like, sorry, pets, go away. How do I be bothered? And it's just like, for some people, that's fine. But yeah, I like hanging out with my pets and petting them. That's what they're there for. Didn't someone saying didn't allow the HoloLens team go to Facebook? Yeah,
Some did, yeah.
but but to be clear, that's always a thing. That's like the cloud teams. Amazon's always poaching Microsoft AWS or Azure people to AWS, and Google poaches AI people from Microsoft, and Microsoft poaches people. So there's a little bit of that, right? Who could pay more? It was true at that time. Facebook was, when Meta was becoming a thing, was throwing a lot of money around, and they probably threw a lot of money at Microsoft people who then jumped over. But that's what all that. But that's normal in that industry, so I wouldn't really look too much into that. Same thing absolutely happened with the cloud teams, I can tell you. That's my biggest issue with VR, not being able to easily take a break. Yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah, because once
Question
you
is,
take it off,
oh, sorry.
like you don't feel like necessarily putting it back on again.
Question is Apple Vision Pro a better product than a HoloLens 2? I think you'll find they're very different products. They really are different, and they are doing different things for different audiences almost entirely. So I don't see. It's like
Yeah.
comparing apples with oranges. They're both fruit, but they're very different.
I think AR VR is helpful for industrial work, rather consumer using. Microsoft was right. Apple's focusing is wrong. Yeah, I mean I think that's a lesson Microsoft learned. Not that it can't ever have an application for consumers, but I do question the value of like having an entire computer on your face, and that's how you're going to be using computers in the future. That I'm not, like I said, I'm not saying it's not going to happen. I'm just haven't been convinced it will either. It's
Right.
kind of funny too, because when you not that this is necessarily indicative of anything, but anytime you watch future sci-fi shows like The Expanse, which made a real effort to be as realistic as possible for what the future could be like and how ships run in space and stuff like that. I didn't see anyone using like a face computer, really. Maybe there was there, but everybody had a cool smartphone, right? That had like the translucent display and would flip
Yeah.
around, and then on Westworld they had the trifold thing, right? But no one was walking around with goggles on their face and face computers. So I don't know. But sci-fi movies also didn't anticipate vaping, so
Yeah.
I don't know.
Microsoft was actually smart positioning HoloLens in corporate. What do you think? Yeah, I fully agree. I think positioning HoloLens as an enterprise product was a really good move for Microsoft because,
It's a safe move.
yeah, it's a safe move because I think HoloLens found its success. It found its niche through enterprise. The fact that it is now one of those
Yeah,
products that, same with the Surface Hub, right? The Surface Hub it is a successful product for
right.
Microsoft. I mean, it's not moving many units, but for what it is and for the companies that need something like that, it's the best out there. And I think HoloLens 2 is the same.
Yeah, I actually think the Surface Hub did sell quite well, but
Yeah.
it's also one of those devices. Once a company gets one, imagine they're going to keep it for many years.
Yeah, right. You don't. Well, once you buy it, that's it. You don't need to really change it.
Yeah,
What happened to Microsoft's 10-year contract with the U.S. military using HoloLens? Is it still on track? It was 21 billion over 10 years. The reports are that there were some issues with the headset and users getting sick as they use it.
yeah, and
Microsoft is
durability, and
still
I think
working
some
on
other
it.
things.
That's part of the reason why the HoloLens team was sort of not doing very well, is because they were mostly focused on this Army headset and not on a true HoloLens 3. Although I imagine a lot of
Yeah,
the tech going into this Army headset will end up in whatever HoloLens 3 ends up being. So,
yeah. The Army version is technically like a HoloLens 2.5.
right,
It
yeah,
does have
it's
different
newer.
hardware in it.
Yeah.
Yeah. AVP is a lonely, lonely world. What is AVP?
Augmented virtual reality. I don't know what the P is.
I think every time I see that, I
Oh, Apple
see
Vision Pro.
Aliens
Sorry,
versus.
Apple Vision Pro. That's the headset.
Oh, okay. I just see Aliens versus Predator.
Yeah, yeah.
Apple Vision Pro is a lonely, lonely world. Do you think Apple can make it social, like connecting to competing VR headsets for games? Well, I'll stop you right there. They will absolutely not let it connect to other competing VR headsets. That's not them. Um, I think their argument would be, well, you can FaceTime on it. There's your socialness. But they could build out other things. Zach raised that question, why would you get two in a room? Do they do anything together? And the answer right now is no. Can they fix that? Yeah, of course. They could add functionality to that. That could be interesting if you're in a relationship with someone that doesn't mind dropping $7,000 to have a shared virtual experience, I suppose. Um, yeah, I mean, even if it comes down to $2,000, that's a $4,000 experience. Like, I mean, at this point, why not just take $4,000 and buy yourself, like, I don't know, a 75-inch 8K TV? Like,
Yeah.
that seems to me a much better use of all this, right? I would rather have that than a freaking mask I put on. Because I think about it, like when I sit and watch TV, I'll use that way more than putting a face computer on my face. But whatever. I mean, that's just me.
Do you think HoloLens 3 should focus on medical, like surgeries? I don't think HoloLens 3 should focus on anything like that. I think HoloLens 3 should just be the platform and then the customers develop for it so it can be functional in those professions. Like, yeah, the HoloLens 2 works great in a medical scenario already, but it also works great if you're working on pipes or plumbing or whatever. It doesn't matter. As long as if you are the company and you build the software for it so it works for your workers, then it could be good at all of
Yeah,
those
and
things. It doesn't.
So yeah, I don't really understand the question either in the sense of like
Yeah.
I don't know what would be different about it, what has better splash guards, and so the flood doesn't get over it. Um, but that said, they kind of answered this already. Like there is the industrial version of HoloLens, which kind of evolved into the army version, but you can get the different like I forgot what it was. They have like different hardware that goes on it. Like they can build it into a hard hat for people working, um, on construction sites. So they can build the hardware and customize some of it for certain scenarios. So they can make the hardware a little bit better for surgeons. They can make a hard hat version for construction and more waterproof version. Like so they could do that with the hardware, but that's just you know, it's something to do with the software itself, though.
Right. Last call for questions. Then I do need to head off. Can you send me your audio down? I don't think I've got it yet.
Oh yeah, I have that. Yeah.
Cheers. Where I've seen hubs used started as just one in a conference room, then another, and then every conference room needed one. Impressive uptake. I mean, yeah, right. That's kind of the beauty of a device like Service Hub. Once you can integrate it into your work domain or whatever, and it's automatically doing like the calendar syncing and the Teams meetings and whatnot, it becomes a sort of it's an ambient device, an ambient computing device. It's just a massive tablet essentially that makes every meeting room connected. So yeah, a company buys one, they're like, actually, this thing's really awesome. Makes every meeting automatic in here. We should get them for all the meeting rooms. How many meeting rooms do we have? 1,000? Oh dear.
Yeah, there was a point where they had backlog of orders because they had so
Yeah.
many orders. But yeah, Surface Hub actually did sell well. Um, but it's a finite market kind of there too. Right.
Obligatory, Zach, have you heard anything about the duos regarding updates? Negative. No news. And probably won't hear anything until later this year. By the way, Zach's short for Zachary. Not to you. It's just Zach.
We have a Zachary on staff.
Yes, and
Another
that's how we
Zachary.
that's how we determine who's who. I'm Zach. He's Zachary. Let's see here. All right, with that, it's time to head off. Thank you everybody for tuning in. We'll be back next Friday. Follow us on Twitter. We'll keep you updated when we go live. But until then, we will see you next time. Bye bye.